Live. Go live. And we're live. Okay, hello and welcome to this live stream, which is the part 3 of Where is God's Wife? I'm here today with Boomshroom, also known as Neirum, and we're gonna go into where's God's wife, and we're gonna continue on the previous exploration of this topic. So we kind of had like I guess maybe 2 nights before we had all this like exploration going on, me and you privately, Neirum.
Mm-hmm.
And
dude, it was profound conversation.
And I don't know. I'm kind of thinking like where to start off with that, because
me too, man. Like, God, we went over so much stuff, and I think the key that I want to communicate to the audience is we distilled a lot of stuff into things that we can hold in our hand instead of having a big old backpack that we're running around with all these heavy concepts, and it takes, hours to explain them to people. We've been able to achieve this explanation to people that have no idea about psychology or about, Proto-Indo-European stuff or any of this stuff within like 5 minutes, which is a victory. Like, just a wonderful feeling to be able to communicate these complex things and talk to people about it. And they don't feel stupid. They don't feel like, oh, I got to go to college to understand life and religion. They're able to get it through these metaphors. And, that's one of the reasons I've always loved Richard Feynman.
Mm-hmm.
He worked on the Manhattan Project for the nuclear bomb, and he was also a teacher. And the way that he would teach complicated physics in the form of metaphors, I thought was beautiful. And he said, if you can't, explain it to a child, you don't understand it yourself. And I think somebody else said that too. I think maybe Einstein said that, but Feynman really embodied that too. He truly believed if you cannot explain these complicated concepts to a child and distill it down to understandable bites, then you don't know what the hell you're talking about either. And I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you feel the same in that. And it's been very difficult to find other people with that sentiment, that they just want to, get up on YouTube and pontificate and circle jerk. And, if somebody doesn't understand the concept, then you're stupid. You don't know anything. You need to get out of here. What do you know? I hate that energy. That is just such a disgusting energy to me. And I'm glad that we've made so much progress in attacking that and breaking through that and reaching real people that can benefit from this knowledge.
I think it's been very I guess like it's just like you had said already, like earlier before this live stream, it's kind of like this, I guess, like this philosopher stone, or like I guess Jung would call it like the transcendent function, like because he talked about it that can like exist within a community of people. But it's for sure powerful. But coming back to like the whole thing with like where's God's wife. I don't know. We we've been talking about that, and about the idea, like where is she, and like and I've kind of also been thinking about like, well, I mean, what is she connected to? And it made me kind of think about like partly of like this feminine earth talk that I had done like way earlier, but also like the earth goddess kind of like energy, like vibe as well. And I don't know, but then we've been talking about these kind of ideas, but I kind of also felt like, and I think like the metaphor that like that we figured out, and this way of like bringing it in this like distilled manner, I think it's in the same vein of what I was thinking too for this talk about, like it's nice and all these big concepts and these spiritual ideas, but then like in a practical sense, like how to bring that together, and like how can we like relate to each other, like build these lasting relationships, to bridge that again, to not only metaphorically like bridge like heaven and earth, and the earth mother and the sky father, but also do it in our own life, like to bring that together, so we can like build the lasting relationships again, and also have families. It's like I feel like that's kind of, for me, that feels like the next like logical step in kind of like the exploration what we've been doing, other than
Yeah.
distilling this idea further.
Yeah. And, before we do dive into the actual metaphors and concepts and stuff like this, I think it's very important what we're saying here. It's like our motivation of why we're doing this. I see so many people out there, throwing these heavy concepts around, and when you try to engage them in a normal conversation, they throw all this jargon at you. And if you don't understand it, then they belittle you. They call you dumb. They think you're stupid. They argue with you, and they try and impress their followers by shitting on you. And it's absolutely everywhere. It's like a cancer all throughout the internet. And I believe this process of distillation is a cure for it, because it's this energy of not talking down and belittling people. It's a vibe of, I'm not smart enough if I can't explain it to you. It's on me. And I want to shift that vibe on the internet around. It's probably impossible, but at least in small pockets of people that don't want to be abused when they're seeking for answers is worthwhile to me. Because all these little YouTube channels and Discord servers, they're cults. They're dangerous cults, because people think that they're following somebody that actually cares about them, and they don't. They just want to fuel their narcissistic tendencies. And some of these people are so lost and desperate for answers, they cling on to this jargon. They cling on to these people that tell them what to do, instead of empowering them to figure it out for themselves. And I'm sick of it. And that's my motivation for doing any of this and all of this, and trying to figure out where's God's wife, talking to all these different people. So with all that said, let's get into the nitty gritty here and talk about some of these metaphors. Do you want to start off? Do you have some jumping off point you want to begin with?
Jumping off point where to begin with. Well, I mean, first of all, I don't know, like coming to mind, like maybe to recap some of the things that we talked about previously in the other two parts. It's kind of like, like we talked about, like the whole I guess Christian Abrahamic idea, and like I've not only seen it there, but I've also seen in some pagan circles where some of these people are basically just rejecting the Earth Mother, even though she's part of the Proto-Indo-European like mythological base, and they're just like, no, it's not Indo-European. Like they're still, I don't know. It made me realize, like there's still, even in pagan circles, like there's still that underlying idea there. It's like that somehow one is uncomfortable with like the Earth Mother, the feminine, and it's still like something, I don't know, like icky or to them in some weird way. But yeah, regarding that, like, yeah, so we've been talking about like bringing that together, and like what it represents, like that it's you brought up that the idea of like like maybe the devil is actually a chick, and maybe actually it's the earth mother, and then and that all connects to nature and the wild animals, and connects to not just that, but also instinct and emotions and that kind of thing as well. Like where there's this weird like rational only weird stuff going on too, and and we've been talking about like how to bring these two together. It's basically the gist of it. But then
Yeah.
But then in the talk that we had like before, or like before this, when we were talking about and distilling this concept, we were basically wondering at that point, like, well, why is this the case? It's like we need to bring it together, yes, and this has been lost, but why is this the case? And I think that's a good base to start from, like to
Okay.
to get to these concepts that we like figured out, these metaphors.
Well, do you want to just go ahead and get into the bookshelf? Oh, I mean, we can do that.
Yeah, no, I want to like
Okay.
get to that and the whole idea with Kronos and that kind of like and how that leads to. I think that would be a great setup before we can go into other like Earth Mother related things.
Yeah.
Skyfall
Are you able to post a picture of the mandala that we've been using for this conversation? Like on the stream?
Yeah, no, I can.
Throw a picture of it?
Yeah, no, I can add that right now. Wait, just let me add that. I can.
Yeah, that way people can look at it, because as we were talking, I was staring at it, and it helped me so much to distill all this stuff and figure it out. I think it'll help the audience too.
For sure. Yeah, I'm gonna get it up right now. I don't know. I'm gonna see which one should I do. Let's see. Should I do this one? That's the Pro. I suppose that one works. That also has Cosmic Man. What's the difference with the historical one? Just to see. I think the historical one is the best one right now, to be honest. I think.
Yes.
And
I'd like to get you to make me a custom one. With some of the terminology that I use, like I see the Cosmic Man as the Celtic knot, and I feel like that, to me anyway, makes so much more sense of what people are actually worshiping. It's not like a being or a man.
Yeah.
It's like the wind, or like the Force from Star Wars you were talking about the other day.
Yeah.
It's the bookshelf, or what? We'll get into that later. But I sound like a crazy person to explain what I'm saying. But yeah.
Yeah. No,
so okay.
Okay, I have the mandala up right now with the Cosmic Man in the center and all these different like deities, and there's Sophia and Christ and Isis and Osiris and Apollo and Artemis and Earth Mother and Skyfather. So we're set.
Oh, perfect, because that's exactly where we're at. We're swimming within that mandala of this whole process.
Yeah.
With this whole process, that's where we're at. So okay, great. Man, okay, so where do we begin? All right.
Yeah.
So why have these concepts been thrown out? That's why we started this whole podcast series, Where is God's Wife?
Yeah.
You look far back into history, there's evidence that religions had deities that were married, and they had their own kids. And over time, they threw all that out. And that was what I was like, why? Why? And now we've come to a point in our big conversation we had, we realize that there has been this process of throwing all kinds of other things out too, like in that mandala, until there's only two things left. Imagine you have this, all of this wonderful, somebody said it looks like a color wheel. The mandala, it looks like a color wheel that, artists and painters use to figure out what matches with what. I was like, that's a great metaphor there.
Yeah.
Like, humanity used to have all these different colors to paint beautiful paintings with. And for whatever reason, the religions of the world destroyed those paints to where you only have black and white. And that's how we color everything. And I think that's a tragedy. So why do we destroy these different pigments that can help us in our lives and our civilization? Is really where we're at now with this.
Yeah.
And I think, one of the most important things is the family has collapsed because of the lack of this pigment. And the women are not represented at all whatsoever. And so that bred out this feminist movement. And you can't blame them. I'm not on board with everything, like the very extreme parts of that, but I can understand why it happened. And I think it's time that we have a conversation about where are these colors? Where are these different ways and lenses of looking at things so that we can have stability again? And I'm talking about stability like Egypt. I'm not talking about like England or even America. I'm talking ancient stability where people had civilizations for thousands of years. And you look at what they believed in, they had the whole color palette. They had the whole color wheel. They had all these different gods and goddesses that had represented different archetypes within us that would help us throughout our lives.
Yeah, no.
And then, you go ahead. I've been talking a bit. You go ahead.
No, I just wanted to add, like, not just that, but I mean, it was like part of their daily life, and it was part of their way of relating to the world as well. Like, it's not just these like within humans, but also the way they interacted with the world changed due to that. Like, like with other people and with nature, and like the masculine and the feminine. And they had like this whole like idea of Ma'at and like this cosmic order where where all these different things were part of. But then somehow, I don't know, like we lost that stuff, which is very sad.
Well, not only did we lose it, we actively destroyed it.
Yeah.
We burned that stuff away. We killed people that still tried to keep the colors.
Yeah, and it's just, I don't
know.
Yeah.
Oh, now we can get into I think Kronos and fear.
Yeah.
I think is a good point for this.
I think so.
So everybody the story of Kronos, he's the father of Zeus and all the other Greek gods. And also the father of time.
Yes.
So he has all these kids. And they're getting older, and they're ready to, take on the mantle that Kronos held up. But he didn't want to let go. He didn't want to. The father of time did not want to acknowledge that his time was up, and it was time for his kids. And he became so afraid that they were going to take his power that he started to eat them. Started to eat his own kids.
Yep.
He destroyed his own future. Again, the father of time, destroying his own future, like the Ouroboros. Because he's afraid of what? Is he afraid to die? Is he afraid he's going to look like an old, doddering man and not have respect? What is the fear? I'm not sure. We can get into that later. Yeah. But that leads to the tyranny. That leads to the iron fist. To eat the children, to destroy the future, to get rid of all the colors, and empty out and hollow out our ability to navigate anything and just be told what to do.
Yeah, I went into that too in the previous video that I did by myself with the parental complexes as well about it, and I've been like looking into the myth of Kronos too from like the Orphic lens, and like he eats his children because he's afraid that they will overthrow him, and he's wearing this scepter, and he wants to the scepter of Nyx, so the scepter of night, and and kind of like this scepter that represents this essence of power that comes from the feminine, because Nyx is a feminine goddess of the primordial kind of like the primordial waters or night. But the thing is that he clings onto that after he overthrew his father Uranus. He clings onto that because he's terrified that his kids would do the same to him. But then Gaia and Rhea, they work together. It's like the mother of the gods worked together with Mother Nature, and she was just like, no, I'm not gonna let you eat all of my kids. And then she hit Zeus, and Zeus was raised by it depends on the myth, either by nymphs or by these like warrior dudes, the Corybantes, and they were like protecting him from the Titans and from Kronos, and allowed him to grow into his full stature. But and then he disguised himself as a cupbearer, and then he actually tricked his dad to throw up all of the kids that he had swallowed up, and then he could reveal like himself as being Zeus, and then they had this massive battle in the heavens. And an interesting fact about Kronos is that in the original myth, like way back before he became also associated with time, he originally also had a serpentine form, so he was a serpent before that, but like an evil one. There's like the wise serpent, but then there's also he was the serpent of chaos, like something along these lines as much as well.
It makes sense how he swallowed people whole, and then Zeus was able to get him to throw them up. They weren't like chewed up and destroyed into a pulp; they were still in there whole. That's very interesting.
Yeah, and I've been looking into it from like a Jungian lens, and it seems to be that like from like a personal level, it kind of represents like that these different parts of ourselves are repressed, and that comes into the soul loss kind of idea, which we can talk about in another stream, like later one time, that we can go way deeper into that. But also on a societal level, as a tyrant, he seems to then represent basically him being the tyrant, or like this tyrannical structure that tries to make everything black and white, and he controls to control everything, because the Orphic said that he, in his tyrannical form, he wanted to dictate everything where everything is supposed to be. Like, you need to act like that. That needs to act like this, and he couldn't let things be. He couldn't let
micromanaging.
Yeah.
Just like we were talking about how the Department of Natural Resources, the DNR, does so with the wolves in the forest. They micromanage nature. And now the nature is dying. The deer are sick. The trees have invasive species. The whole ecosystem is collapsing because human beings are trying to micromanage all of nature. And now the DNR sees that that's not going to work. So they reintroduce the wolves into the forest, into Yellowstone National Park. And now they're going into Colorado.
Yeah.
And everybody is raising all kinds of hell about these wolves. Why? Because they're scared of them. Why? Because they don't know if there's a solution to live in harmony with them. They're not even willing to explore it because they're so terrified of nature and wolves. And that's why I brought up the thing about why can't we make a fence that keeps wolves and animals out, like the walls of Eden? Why don't we have a great project in humanity that creates literal walls of Eden so we don't have to destroy all of nature and we can do what we want to do in our little box? Why is that not the idea? Well, in order to get to that idea, you can't be afraid of wolves. You have to understand wolves. You have to understand nature.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the battle we're fighting here is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's
to get rid of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, to get rid of being afraid of nature. Quit being afraid of women being goddesses and men being gods too, Quit being afraid of this stuff and try to understand it. Now, with that said, I'm going to play devil's advocate for a moment.
Yeah.
Through that fear and that Sky Father energy, we went from having a lifespan of 30 years to a lifespan of like 90.
True.
And we live so long that our brains deteriorate into Alzheimer's, and that's how we die now. We don't die of like disease. We don't die of like a toothache. We have all this medicine and transportation to get you to a hospital quickly. And that comes from the fear. And I'm not going to knock that. I'm not going to say it's bad. But what I am saying is it's time to integrate something else with it. It's time to give the Sky Father a wife. And it's time for them to have kids. And it's time for us to move into the future where we do have walls of Eden, where we don't murder all the wolves, where there is a representation of women in a church, and not in the form of Mother Mary, like in the form of Freya, or the form of Isis, or the form of, any number of other ancient goddesses. It's time to do that, to reintegrate it. Because we have all this stuff. We have this great long lifespan. And we don't need to fight nature anymore because we've totally dominated it. We have no reason to be afraid anymore. So I think it's time to open our arms up.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like with that said, I guess this whole fear and this control, we were kind of also then talking about that with the mandala also, like how you have the cosmic man that holds all this together, like the bookshelf, how you were saying, or like how we figured out, and then you have the Earth Mother here and the Sky Father, and then you have all of these other like deities that are there too. You have like Athena and Zeus and Apollo and Artemis and like Pan and Hecate here, and these are all the different kids. You could see it like that. These different energies, and they fill up the mandala because there's this sense of the cosmic man holds all of this, holds it all together, and it contains all of this. Contains. It's like the center and the circumference, but it's like, then we got to this idea, like when we talked then privately together, and we got to this bookshelf idea, like, that like, it's almost like we want to have the center without the circumference, but we can't have the center without the circumference, because if you don't have the circle, you can't have the center.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to take this bookshelf metaphor in another direction. Now, since you said that, so this mandala is a family, and for whatever reason, maybe fear, maybe this Kronos stuff.
Yeah,
we killed that family, and they used to all live in this house together, and radiate this understanding and energy of different ways of interacting with reality.
Yeah.
And now all of them are dead, and all that's left is the house. And people decided it was a good idea to worship the house instead of the people inside of it. They got rid of them all. They worship the structure. And that's what the cosmic man represents. I was saying earlier, I think that the cosmic man isn't a man. It's actually the Celtic knot weaving all of those different family members together into the house And so I would replace the cosmic man with like a picture of a house, and then everybody like living within that house or something like that. And all of them are gone, and just the house is left, and everybody thinks that's God, and it's not. It's like, and here's what the bookshelf metaphor is. I was thinking about each of those family members, like Apollo and Isis, as books on a shelf, and the cosmic man is the bookshelf that holds it, the structure. And for whatever reason, everybody started throwing the books off the shelf and burning them and getting on their knees, praying to the bookshelf, saying that the bookshelf is everything and the end all be all and all this and that. And it's not. It's a world devoid of color, a world devoid of family, of understanding, of the Celtic knot, the weaving of all the archetypes together into a stable human mind. And that's what Carl Jung was all about. Yeah. He was trying to achieve that.
Oh, definitely.
He was trying. Yeah, because all this stuff has become subconscious. It's not like we've really killed it. I don't think you can.
Oh, no, we can't.
It's deep within our hearts. This family, this cosmic family. And it comes out and plays itself out in an unconscious way that ruins our lives.
Yeah.
And through this process of, this distillation of what we're doing here, I'm hoping it's reawakening these things, bringing it to a conscious level instead of a subconscious level, where we get these people back in the house and being a family again that we can use as role models. We don't have role models. What do we have as role models? Superheroes. Yeah. You got Batman. You got Aquaman. You got Wonder Woman. These are our gods now. Whether people want to believe it or not, they're subconsciously worshiping these things as gods. Think about the Justice League.
Oh yeah.
They're all up in a giant space station, living like a family, helping the world, protecting the world, loving the earth. That's exactly what it is. It's a religion. But
yeah,
you say that to people and, they don't believe it. And then you ask them, well, what gods do you pray to? Oh, I don't pray. Oh, I'm an atheist. I'm this and that. But I just spent $5,000 going to Comic-Con and all these outfits and having a good time. I'm like, okay, Comic-Con is your church. No, it's not blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, well, what about if, Batman lost the fight with Superman or whatever? Oh, no, that's not canon. That's not accurate. Actually, you're so wrong. They get riled up and angry, just like if you said something bad about Jesus in a church. And they're going to sit there and tell me that's not a religion? This is crazy. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think in that sense, like, we can't, we don't really get rid of that at all. We don't get rid of that religious, I guess, impulse, or like this, like, the spiritual nature that we have, because we've been having that since, well, the ice age, the Neolithic at least, and in way before that too. There's a lot of like archaeological evidence for that, and the thing is that it's only been like what the last 500 to 600 years that we pushed all of this stuff into the unconscious, where we I mean, it's not really it's like a bunch of people that like that wanted to get rid of it, and then more and more. Scared. Yeah. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's a bunch of really scared people that are they're Kronos. These little weak, spineless people that are so afraid of the world sorting itself out that they have to control you. They have to destroy you if you don't bend a knee. That's what I see in these Discord servers, man. Like, if you don't bend a fucking knee to whoever's in charge in there, everybody else in there starts attacking you. It's just like a cult. It's just like a Kronos cult or some shit. And they don't see it. They think that they're getting help. They think they're going in a direction. Meanwhile, they're all tied to a post. They're all like enslaved to this idea because they think if they leave that they're going to be real fucked. They're going to be real lost. And that's a shame. I don't know why that keeps happening. Maybe it's because there's not other solutions out there. Maybe, you know, I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to say that. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, but it's like I'm just thinking like, yeah, with the whole like I guess Kronos idea. Wait, what was I actually saying? I just lost my train of thought.
You're man, I lost it too. Sorry about that, man.
It's okay. It's okay. I'll get it back. I'll get it back. But yeah, there. So there's these you know. There were these like people that wanted to have control. I've been looking into it, like exactly what happened, and if you look at it, because if you really look at it, it wasn't actually it wasn't even actually Christianity itself or like as a whole who did it. It was particular individuals within what became the church. There was a shift in what was understood as the church, where at first it was the community, where they allowed for other beliefs and other like folk practices to still exist. I mean, not all of them did, but mostly. But then there were these individuals that were like, no, the church means the building now, and it means and it means I am in charge, I have authority, and they wanted power, political power over the community, over the Christian community, to be like, this is the uniform understanding of what it is, and they were embodying Kronos basically, like this kind of Kronos idea, and then they took this entire idea that, for instance, I mean, you can see it with Jesus, for instance, in Revelation. What is he talking about there? It's like he wanted to bring God, the Sky Father, back onto the earth. That's literally what Revelation is about. He wanted to marry that. It's the same with the Arthurian myths. It's like with the Holy Grail too. It's like, what is that about? It's connected to the land, and it's connected to the divine, and it's about bringing the divine to back onto the ground. It's about marrying the Earth Mother and the Sky Father again, and I think that's what that was about, to bring that back together, to bring it down onto the earth, and instead of trying to escape into some weird spiritual realm. Of, wanting to be away, like like how we talked about before, Neirum, like about like the brain wanting to escape the body, and I'm feeling like with that, like, yeah, there were these particular individuals, and they were interested in power more than any of the other stuff, and they wanted to control the Christian community and also the non-Christian communities as well, and I think that's where it went wrong. And I saw that they were interested in rationality only too, and they were like, no, all this folk beliefs and this like spiritual stuff, it's like this mystical stuff is all like superstition, and they wanted to have a rational Christian community, and from that, like, eventually started modernity as it is. But along the way we started to, because then the witch hunt started. We started to burn people. We started to burn books. We started to go crazy with these things, with the witch hunts and all this fucked up shit that we started to do. Because we tried to control everything. We started to murder the wolves. We started to cut down all the forest, to build ships and to for instance, in the Netherlands, I know of there used to be this oak forest, But they around that time they decided it was a nice idea to cut down this like hectares and hectares of oak forest down to build ships, and then it turned into a desert. It became a sand pit, and then they were needing to bring back pine trees. They brought pine trees in because whole cities started to villages started to get swallowed up by sand. And
oh my God.
And the thing is that's the kind of like this controlling idea. It's like what I feel that what we get with that. It's a desert.
Yeah, it's a desert of nothing where nothing can live. Just like if they didn't reintroduce wolves into Yellowstone National Park, that might turn into a fucking sand pit eventually because the ecosystem will just collapse. But, thankfully, we have a little more patience, a little more understanding.
Yeah.
And, this thing called science, when you actually apply it correctly without political ideology, you can start to see there's a cliff over here if we keep killing all these wolves. There's a cliff over here if we, start growing babies in pods and download our brains into machines. People are starting to be like, whoa, hang on. Is this a good idea, guys? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And that's hopeful. At least people are like, oh, whoa. Hold on, guys. Hold on a minute. What is going on? We all feel really depressed. We feel sad. Nobody has families anymore. Everybody's angry. Nobody can talk to each other. Everybody's joining cults. Everybody's being told what to do by people because they're afraid. They're scared. They don't know what to do because all the things that tell you what to do have been burned, have been obfuscated. Like the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
That represents, a woman. Why don't you just have it be a woman? Why do you need all this craziness? These symbols and things like, oh yeah, there's the Holy Grail. Yeah, but God doesn't have a wife. Okay, well, what's with all this confusion? What's with all this convoluted this and that?
Yeah. I mean, if you look at it like with the Holy Grail too, if you trace it back. Because, they connected to the Holy Spirit as well. The Holy Spirit used to be, in the Jewish tradition, way back, used to be actually feminine and connected to, I think it was Sophia, the goddess Sophia. And then, at the same time also with the Holy Grail, then there was with the Celtic tradition, she was connected to the water goddess. And then the water goddess was connected and the deeper layer with the sovereignty goddess and the earth, like the earth mother kind of like goddess as well. And the thing is that's what the symbol used to be, but it became more and more like an object and a thing, and it became more it became more and more removed from it. They removed it away from the feminine, and even made the Holy Spirit into a dude.
Yeah, a dude, exactly. Like, what's with all these dudes everywhere up in heaven? Like, that doesn't sound like a cool place. I don't want to go to Chippendales when I die. Like, that sounds like a bad idea, guys. But, then you have the other thing, hell, where you're burning forever, and that doesn't sound good either. I just am like, I feel like we have thrown something out here. Something here just does not really, compute with me. What is actually going on? And you were talking about earlier about, the battle between the heart and the mind. The mind or the head can be considered, the Sky Father. And then your heart can be considered, the Earth Mother. And there is this war between these two things. And it's been going on for thousands of years. This rejection and submission of the heart. The enslavement of the body to the mind instead of a relationship like we originally had. We need a relationship between our feelings and our ideas. To just be so stoic all the time and suppress any feelings that you have instead of exploring them, like, Carl Jung taught us to do through active imagination. You take your mind and you plunge into your explore yourself. I think that's the answer.
Yeah.
And that's why, I got so into that video game Scorn, because it was illustrating exactly that. These people hated their bodies so much that they evolved their heads to have its own internal organs and pop off the body and leave it, shaking behind on the floor, and it floated around and dreamt forever, just dreaming, not doing anything with the body, just living all in the sky, Father, living all up in the air with ideas that can never be acted out. And that's hell. And alternatively, if you're just all in your heart and you don't have any ideas and you can't move forward, then you're like an animal. So that's not good either. I don't want to do that, There's got to be a marriage between the two. This war within ourselves has got to stop. But there's no reason at all that we cannot marry the heart and the mind. There's no reason at all that Mother Earth and Father Sky can't come together on the surface of the earth, on like a mountaintop, as they often depict in religious scriptures, where Mother Earth and Father Sky meet, and that's where they're married, and revelations happen.
Yeah. And they have their kids there too, they're living there with their kids as well.
Yeah.
And I think,
like Mount Olympus.
Yeah, and I think, like, coming back to the mandala that is still up as well here, regarding that, like, because there's the cosmic man and this kind of like what holds it together, but then there's also Earth Mother and Sky Father. It's like, all these things are all part of like the cosmic man and that holds it together, and or like the books and the bookshelf, but then there's still all of these elements that are there as well in the Earth Mother and the Sky Father and their kids. And I feel like there has been a lot of too much focus on just the cosmic man, where I also feel like if you just focus on either just a singular one of these aspects, like of the kids, for instance, as well, it's not good either. It's like we need to keep it's like we kind of like need to have the idea of the cosmic man, or like this, like, that all of these things are part of a same whole, but at the same time we need to also understand that there are all of these different colors, like, like you talked about, Neirum, that we have all these different colors that we can utilize and that we can tap into and explore the world from, and that there's this relationship, you called it a dance, this dance that we have through the mandala, like that we dance from one place to the other instead of being stuck, because
like what gave me that idea was you talking about shamanism, and then we talked about Footloose. This is great. I want to get into this. So okay, shamanism and Footloose. I'm about to make this connection. So buckle up. All right. So what is Footloose about? It's about a town that bans dancing. Nobody's allowed to dance. So all of the young people are really pissed off about this. Like, they want to have fun. They want to dance. But, all the very super conservative people are like, no, this is evil. This leads to hell. And you cannot dance. You're only allowed to walk in a straight line to and from work and go to bed and get up and walk in a straight line back to work and come right home. No dancing. No dancing allowed. And so, of course, they start dancing in secret. And then they get caught and they try to arrest them. And then some of the parents of the kids are like, this is wrong. And then the parents start dancing. And then everybody's dancing. And then they get the cops to dance. And everybody's dancing. And they can't stop it. I think that's shamanistic energy, because when you have somebody, being a shaman around a campfire, one of the things they do every time is dance. They dance around. They have like a shamanic dance or something to like represent what I believe, the dance through the mandala and the different lenses that you can use to examine issues and make solutions. Dancing is critical. There's also this book by Somerset Maugham called The Razor's Edge. And I love that book. It's a wonderful book. It's very near and dear to my heart because it's about this man that's not afraid to dance. He's not afraid to dance through life. He was in like World War I, and there was like a grenade that got thrown or something, and his friend jumped on it, and he died. And then he's like left with this feeling of like, no, that should have been me. I should have died. My friend should have lived on. I should. And so when he got back home, he felt like he was dead. And he was like, no, for my friend that took that grenade, I choose to dance. I choose to do what I want to do for him because he died for me. So that to him was like his personal Jesus. Metaphorically, like a man sacrificed himself just for you to live on. And that stuck with him for the rest of his life. And it inspired him to not take on his father's business, not to marry this woman he was supposed to marry. Instead, to get on a boat, go to Paris, make new friends, do a job he's interested in, go and climb Mount Everest, go learn things from the monks in India, go figure out what is going on through the dance. And that's the most important thing, is to remember to dance and to have a good time. And you don't have to listen to everybody. You should get out of your hometown and go dance around for a little bit. And when you're ready, come back to your hometown and share. And if people decide they like what you've got, they can add that brick to the castle of the community. And if they don't like it, then they don't have to. Maybe they like some other things that you discovered.
Oh, yeah. True.
But the problem is that the community doesn't want to welcome the children back that went to go dance.
Yeah, and it's...
The Amish do. The Amish do that, like in Rumspringa. I think they understand this concept now that I think about it. But yeah, I've said enough. Yeah, what do you think about that, man?
Yeah, no, it's just something that came to mind because when I was looking into for instance, the Corybantes and some of these different warrior traditions, where they do that too. This like going out into the world and then letting these young people explore who they are and like connect to instinct through these different like animal symbolism that they use. And the dance, there was something about that with the Corybantes that the Greeks had said, and they said that dancing, dancing is a civilizing force. That through dancing and tapping into like instinct and tapping into that people become civilized. It's through dancing we become civilized. If we don't dance, we're not actually civilized. We're not actually utilizing. Yeah, we're not utilizing everything that's there, and we're not actually civilized. Because then these forces that are there, the gods, the spirits, like how one could say it from that lens, they're I guess in the Jungian lens, one could say they're unconscious and they're kind of ruling over us, and we don't dance with them. We don't interact with them. We don't live with these different energies within ourselves, and we're not connected to our body and to the world. We don't dance with it, and it's actually an interesting. I've never really like thought about that like this before, but it's just. It just makes a lot of sense. It's like, dancing is what actually makes us civilized. And fearing dancing makes us beasts, actually, in a weird way. Because then we're we're not integrating instinct, and if we're not doing that, and it's unconscious, then it comes out in really weird ways. I mean,
Yes. Yeah, like the denial of the dance creates a subconscious rebellion, which might be depicted in the Holy Bible as the devil, as Lucifer rebelling against the harsh rules of God. Maybe God said no dancing, and Lucifer was like, no, foot loose, everybody cut loose, let's dance. I don't know. I know that's super heretical what I just said, but
yes, but
just for the sake of argument,
yeah.
What if that's what that is? What if that's what happens every time when you deny the heart the dance of life? And then the mind has to contend with the heart. And what does it do? What does it do? Is the head going to cut itself off from the body and start floating around in the sky and leave it behind? No, that's not possible.
Yeah.
And I think that is the whole driving force behind Neuralink and AI research. I think that's what they're wanting to do. They want to cut the head off and separate it from the body and the flesh and the necessity to dance. They want to stick you in a fucking computer and have you think all day instead of dance.
Yeah.
And I, for one, do everything I can to fight against that. That sounds like hell. That's awful.
Yeah, but if I don't know, like what comes to mind also with dancing is also this idea regarding, what Alan Watts talks about with nature. It's wiggly, and
Wiggly.
I feel like, yeah, but and I feel like that's what we do when we dance with these archetypal energies, when we dance with the world and each other. We are wiggly, like we make things wiggly, and and it's also it revitalizes us, and it revitalizes society too, because when we, like you said, like when we go out into the world and we can explore who we are, then and we can come back on our own terms, and that's what the Amish, what you had said also to me, like what they do as well. And it's same with these Proto-Indo-European and these Indo-European like traditions too. It's like the kids who would return, they would come back with new stuff. They would come back with new insights. They would interact with other people, other cultures, other and just figure stuff out outside of that society where they could be free of that, and then connect also with nature, because with for instance with the Arctea thing with the bear, and and this dance that they did, a lot of that was also connection to nature. Even with the choreos, with the hunter kind of gatherer understanding, they had this respect for nature. It's like they understood, like, okay, well, in those times, like, yeah, nature can fuck us up, but they had respect for that. They were just like, they had like this sense of like reverence for it, and they had this understanding. Then also like, that there's this give and take like relationship, and I think that's the whole thing. It's like, do we know how to have a relationship, not just with nature but with each other? And I kind of feel like, like so many people are angry at each other, and they're yelling at each other, or like there's a lot of that going on, or like just talking very intellectually. But can we actually relate to each other, be authentic and relate to each other, and have like these authentic connections that are based on like a sense of like mutual respect and understanding?
I think nature can hurt us as long as we dance with it. And as Alan said, nature's wiggly. And when we dance, we wiggle around like the trees blowing in the wind.
Yeah.
And as we dance, it's like a wind blows through our souls and clears out all the bullshit. And we're able to think clearly and integrated and be a community again. And, I think the Egyptians danced. I think they understood these concepts. You look at all those hieroglyphs on the wall. They're like doing all these dances. It looks like they're in these different positions. I mean, I'm joking, but I do wonder their dances did look like. How did the Egyptians dance 20,000 years ago? What were they doing? How did they keep their shit together for so long? And then you look on the walls, they carved in all this stuff in stone. There's men, there's women, there's animals, there's all of it, man. There's a whole color wheel of different things and different ways to look at it. And imagine you could go to the pyramids and dance through the halls and look at all the different pictures as you dance. You would eventually gain an understanding of what these people were about.
Yeah. I knew.
You can't just
know, like, yeah.
Stare at a hieroglyph and understand it. You got to dance through the halls.
Yeah, I do know also that they. I think it was like something like there was a fungus that grew on barley. That with some of the, I think it's with the Isis rituals. So the rituals connected to Isis, that they took this barley concoction that like from the barley that contains fungus, and I think even also with the there has been some evidence found that something similar probably has been done with the ancient Greeks, because they had these kind of rituals too, and like most, I think like it was a yearly thing with the Athenians where they did that ritual where they drank that and they were like doing that together. It was like a communal dance or like a communal thing. Like they did this together. They were using these psychoactive substances to connect to the gods. They connect to these different colors of the wheel. And they were reenacting like this essence of like the Osiris being all cut up in with the Egyptians in these different pieces and coming and then putting that back together. And that makes me again also think about like the idea of soul loss too, and like how, I don't know, I've been like feeling with the bookshelf metaphor, like how like there's all these different pieces of us, these books that are or like these parts of us that are within us, that are part of us, and then there's this, and then there's the structure that holds it together, but and then trauma happens and other stuff like this happens, and then all these different parts, these different books, they got lost within us. And I kind of feel like they did these rituals on a yearly basis to keep us whole, to keep us wiggly, to keep us dancing.
Yeah.
Because
it's time to dance.
I think so, and I think like that this also boils very much down into, I feel like like the way people relate to each other, and I think like that's something too to think about, like how are we relating to each other? Are we actually like like on not just an intellectual level, but on an emotional level, and like and with certain people, like romantically, on also like a physical level, like like intellectually, emotionally, physically, and maybe even spiritually. Like how are we relating on these levels, or are we just like focused on a singular thing, and I kind of feel that ties into the whole mandala idea too. It's like there's all these different colors, all these different pieces and aspects there, and we need to like we need to dance so that we can dance to the right spot, so that we're not stuck on any one of them, or stuck in just in the center.
Yeah. So I think we have nailed this down to be whatever this is, whatever people have done through history is a Kronos energy. I think we can safely call it that. The knowledge of time leads to fear, leads to tyranny, leads to throwing the books off the shelf, killing all the kids in the house, worshiping the house, and it all falls apart. Egypt falls, Greece falls, Rome falls.
Yes.
we might be if we don't integrate these lessons and start dancing together.
Yeah, and I think that it ties also in a practical sense, like, I guess, to, because like you said, they it also represents these role models, but it also represents these different like aspects of ourselves. And I feel like if we can bring that back, maybe we can then not only relate to nature, but also again to each other, like, men and women being able to form these healthy relationships and have kids, and actually in a healthy manner, like, but then I kind of feel like, there, I've had this realization, like, after this, like, talk that we had, Neirum, about that, regarding the bookshelf idea, and I kind of started to realize, like how kind of, because people acting like that and acting out of this Kronos energy, how, for, I mean, thinking about, like, about kids, it's like how traumatizing that is for kids, and also the fact that we've been doing this for a very long time. So it's like we've all been kids, our parents have been kids, and their parents have been kids, and all of that, and it's like, it's kind of like feeling like these, all these different, like, lives, and these different generations that have gone through this kind of like Kronos, like tyranny.
Think about how many kids, have been aborted because of this energy. Like, people don't want to have kids because they're afraid that it's going to take their life away. Just like Kronos was afraid. That's why he ate his kids. And you hear people's reason of why they have these abortions. It's like, oh, it's going to get in the way of my life. Like, whoa, it's just that simple, okay? It was just that simple with Kronos as well. And, it didn't change until Zeus fought that spirit. And then after that, what did Zeus do in Mount Olympus? Like, he had a lot of love for his. But other than that, how do you get to that point of love? I love my family. I love the humans. I love this mountain. I love the sky, and I love the earth. Where is the love, man? It's not anywhere. You search high and low. People don't have that love and understanding in their hearts. They're tyrannical.
Yeah,
if you say anything that disagrees with their ideology, they become Kronos and fight you on the spot. They're ready to square up right then and there.
Yeah, but I think a lot of it comes from I guess the fear, but I think, like, the fear there is, like, I guess partly, I mean, there's this element of death that we are talked about, but I think kind of also what's going on, like, right now with a lot of people, because think about it, like, this kind of, like, idea of this, I guess the Orphics would call it the Kingdom of Kronos, like this idea of this tyrannical kind of state of being, this, like, to try to control everything. Like, this has been happening over many, many, many generations, and caused also a lot of trauma, because these different parts that we shoved away from a Jungian lens, also we had to repress as people in ourselves, and these are part of our human nature, like emotions, or I don't know, or more like, I guess, instinctual side, or even the body, or, like, like whatever particular aspect is connected to that. And I kind of feel with that also said, like, and having to push all that away is to deny a lot of who we are, and also, like, leads to a lot of trauma, because the thing is, like, because a lot of these things, like, for instance, like, think about a kid that has emotions, wants a kid wants love, and wants to, for instance, be held by their mother, but then if there's this, like, control Kronos kind of thing going on, and no rationality only, and there's already that trauma there, and then the parents can't, due to that trauma and being in that, like, state of, like, this Kronos energy, they can't actually provide this love. They can't provide that for the kid, and then that is traumatizing to the kid. But then they have to push that away, which causes all kinds of things. Like I went into that with the parental complexes video, much deeper. But the fact with that is that feeds also into all this insecurity I feel that is there with all these ideologies. It's like there's so much of people kind of that has been rejected because we somehow feel like we need to put all of these aspects of ourselves on this like human altar of like human sacrifice, and we need to sacrifice all of that we are. We can only be this little tiny little like speck in the middle, only the cosmic man, that's all we can be, and all these other things we can't. And it's like we're sacrificing all of that onto this like altar to worship at the bookshelf. But the thing is that doing that creates also this very like insecurity there, because we're not connected to a big part of who we are, and I feel like through that then there's this like this insecurity, this trauma there, and then we start to act out and lash out because because there's this fear and these that comes up, and all these feelings and emotions that are connected to that, and then we don't want that to come up, and then we act out in these tyrannical ways because we want to keep that at bay, because we want to like stay in control of things, internally.
Yes.
Like we have internalized that sense of we need to be in control of our body. The mind needs to control the emotions, and we need to control. And I feel like it's like kind of both of that, and I feel like it's been very detrimental for ourselves and for our relationships too, and kids, because we can't have. I don't feel like it's healthy for kids to be in that environment, or us to be in that kind of environment where we have to deny so much of who we are, and I don't feel like love is possible with that. Like if we have to deny like our emotions, we have to deny so much of who we are. If we can't love ourselves, how can we be expected to love someone else? That's kind of like the idea that then comes to mind to me.
Yeah, like if you can't marry your heart and your mind together, there's no way in hell you can love anybody else. Because that's what that love is. That's the marriage between the masculine mind and the feminine heart. And when you end that conflict within yourself, you're ready to have family. Since nobody can do that, nobody's having families. Nobody feels love. Nobody feels anything, I don't believe, except afraid and anxious and angry all the time.
Yeah, there's a lot of that like anxiety and fear and despair and all these like emotions there, and then there's like these emotions that they deem negative, that are linked to this trauma, and like all the things that are repressed, that are coming up and trying to be reintegrated. But then there's that fear there about that, and that fear gets projected onto the world, and then we try to control everything, and then, but in the end, I guess, it's also, I guess, to understand that we can't control everything, that like,
No.
that people are like their own autonomous beings, and animals are, and plants and everything kind of is its own autonomous thing that does its thing on its own, and we can't control. But I guess for a lot of people that idea is very scary, and
we can control it, but then everything dies. We did control the forest, we did control the birth. We did control it, and that what's the result? Death. Our form of control is killing. And instead, our form of control should be dancing. Because, I do believe, like I was talking about with the wolves and making like a fence that shoots out sound that they don't like or emits
Yeah.
a smell that tells them, just like you put our heads together and invent something where you don't have to murder the forest in order to have peace. You know, and that comes from destroying all the other colors on the color wheel. The only option to people is not kill all the wolves. When you integrate the colors back in and you dance through them, you're like, oh no, we can make a fence, like a sonic fence, or like a smell fence, or integrate them both together, and the farmers can be safe and their livestock can be safe. The wolves can be out in the forest,
Yeah.
making the deer population healthy, helping the ecosystem. We can do this if we have color and we can dance. You can still control the situation without murder.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like, yeah, without murder or trying to dominate. And I guess
Mm-hmm.
what you're saying there too, what with the idea of the fence kind of also is, it's kind of like in a symbolic way also, kind of, it's kind of like building a relationship with nature, where
Mm-hmm.
you basically erect, like, I guess some healthy boundaries, because that you don't get like fucked up by nature or anything, but you also respect it. And I guess in some sense it also applies, like, not just to nature and the wolves, but I guess also to people generally. That I guess we have like those boundaries for ourselves, but also with others, like that we, I guess, respect each other. I guess the dignity of all life in that sense.
Yeah, that it is alive too, that we come from it, just like it, wherever it came from, we came from it too. We're not separate. We are special, but we're not separate from nature itself. We don't need to cut our heads off and fly off into the Neuralink server in order to, I don't know, be happy or be okay. That's wrong. That's the wrong direction. And ultimately, that's what we're talking about here. The killing of the wolves in the forest and the destruction of the ecosystem, the collapse of it because of their absence, is effectively us cutting our own head off. The forest is the body, and the farm can be the head, so to speak. Where there's all this structure and livestock and medicine and tractors, that's the head. That's the Sky Father. And then over the fence into the forest is the heart, Mother Earth, the body. And what have we been doing for 1,000 years? Trying to saw our head off and live without the body. And now we're coming to a point, finally, where we see that is not possible. And again, that segues back into the AI and Neuralink. They're still trying to do it. They're still trying to do it in another way, but without killing the wolves. Instead, they want to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
They want to kill your body and put your mind into a machine to where you'll never be able to dance again.
Yeah.
You'll be trapped. You'll be in hell.
Yeah, but I've put this image now up that I've made a while ago. Wait, I'm gonna post it also for you, Neirum, in Roundtable, just so you can see it as well. There's this sense of this image. It's like this proto-Indo-European kind of community idea that I've been working on, and I kind of feel it's also relevant. Like, there's the Koreos going out into the unknown, exploring, and the Arctea too. There's like permaculture on the round table there, and the sovereignty goddess, or the Earth Mother and the Sky Father, and this coming together there. And I kind of feel, and that's kind of what I wanted to bring up too. It's like, it's not just that, but I kind of feel like the community center there, the Viking Hall, where we can come together is also kind of feel like one of the other elements that is missing as well, because it's also taps very much into relating too, like this that we can come together and we can like share our stories or ideas or how we're feeling, how we're doing in a way that I don't feel like we're doing right now. Like like because that there's this structure there, but also that like sense of community and I guess support and in the nurturing qualities is very much also linked to the Earth Mother, to the feminine.
Yeah. Well, exactly. So in this is a beautiful picture, by the way, and it's really good symbolically. So so this picture is showing two different ecosystems. One is a physical ecosystem, the trees and the wolves and the deer.
Yeah.
The other one is a spiritual ecosystem of a town ordered for spirit. So what you're seeing is the kingdom of the Sky Father and the kingdom of Mother Earth right next to each other, in harmony, married. That's what I see when I see this picture.
That's the idea, yes.
Yeah. And like, in other words, the unknown is the kingdom of the mother. And in the shaman's hut is on the border trying to tie together the Sky Father kingdom and the Earth Mother kingdom. And so what, I guess I'll put this in another way. Cutting down that whole forest, if you cut it all down like they did those oak trees and it was just a sand pit, that would not be beautiful anymore, and all those people would eventually die. And it just is a ridiculous thought to think we need to go to war with the Mother Earth Kingdom because it's trying to kill us. And it's like, no, you're not smart enough to understand how to dance with her. And you need to figure that out, because without her, we're not here.
Yeah.
Now then it begs the question: does she need us? Does she need those towns being built? I don't know. Maybe that's something she's proud of or something. Like, oh, look at these people, they're together. Look at them dancing down there. Around the round table, and they're figuring it out, and they're loving each other, and they're doing some things. And I don't mind to give them a little bit of wood and a few deer and here and there to help them live. It's an exchange,
Yeah.
But then when it gets to the point of, no, we got to kill her, we got to get her to submit, we got to do this, we're not dancing with you, it just becomes a hellscape. Yeah. That's a beautiful picture. I really love it.
No, thanks. No, but I kind of feel like that it's based on this like Viking village, and like like how they would like how they used to live, and been very much like looking into that, and one of the elements that also stood out generally with these ancient people too is like they had this community center where they would come together, but they wouldn't just come together there just to do like intellectual talks or something. Like they were having meat, they were dancing, they were being cheerful, and they had a good time together. But they would also come together there to do all kinds of other things too, like to have these other important talks there as well that were needed. But I feel like it's another element of that too that's kind of important, I feel, with this whole God's wife element as well, regarding like the relationship part. It's like we need to like it's kind of like the shaman can help it, like the idea of soul loss and bringing all these parts together so we can marry the heart and the mind. But there's also still this essence I feel there necessary, where there's the sense of community, because it's through community that it's about like that we have this feeling of belonging somewhere, because that's also a need that we have, this sense of community and this sense of bond with others. And then you can also see this like Heroes Gamos. It's like the marrying of the mind and the heart, but also it's the marrying of like the structure of the village and the community that we marry with what the earth goddess represents. It's the relationship between the village and nature, but also between men and women, and also between the conscious and the unconscious from a Jungian lens. And that we have this dance, because the Heroes Gamos literally is a dance. It's this. It literally is. It's the Rasa Lila dance. It's a dance, and that's what it is, and that's what they were doing, and that's the whole point of it, that we have this dance together, and this dance is a communal thing. There used to be this couple there, like that in this marriage ceremony, there's the couple there, the man and the woman that would come together, but they weren't alone. They were. That's the community is there. And then there's through that there's this shared dance that they do, and then they're married, but and then they become part of the community as a whole too, and that we have this dance together, and then the couple coming together, and they have kids, and then like they take their kids to the community to this like Viking hall, this shared space, and I kind of feel like maybe in some way, I guess like there's this Comic-Con kind of idea and these things, but I'm feeling like, well, where is the space where men and women are coming together? Where is it?
It doesn't exist anymore. Some people would say, "Oh, it's Tinder." No, that's not coming together. That's just coming together. But it's not like actual unification or anything. They're just having casual sex and never speaking to each other ever again, and just putting another notch on their belt of another person that they've been with. And somehow I think they believe that validates them and makes them feel better, but it doesn't result in shit. It doesn't result in anything at all.
And I'm kind of feeling like it feels like to me that it's like an integral part of like, because when we bring it together in ourselves, the masculine, the feminine, we marry the heart and the mind. Kind of, there's still that need there too for community, for being able to not just dance by yourself, but to dance with others. And I kind of feel like, and for men and women to be able to come together. And I feel like that's very much missing, because, things are so, right now, like so polarized. And I kind of feel like, I don't know, that's kind of the idea that came to me when I made this image. Yeah. There was then before this, like, other talk that we had, but it's like that idea that came to me thinking about, like, the whole Where's God's Wife talk, where about, like, yeah, like we can do this internally, but then like, well, what about the space where men and women can come together just like as people, like and where it's not just about like Tinder and we just and these people just having like casual sex and that's it, and never seeing, because that's not relating, because that's not actually building a relationship and being able to build a family off of that.
Yeah. So if you dance by yourself, you're crazy. If you dance with a woman, that's romantic. If you dance with 20 people, that's a community. And if you get two towns to dance together, that's civilization.
I think so. I mean, the Greeks would definitely agree. The civilization, the civilizing nature of dance. I feel like that's. Mm-hmm. I think that's the thing, and I feel like we lost that. We lost that dancing together. That like civilization comes from that dancing together.
Yeah. Instead of dancing, we think we have to fight, And fighting is a dance in of itself, but the goal is murder.
Yeah.
It's not fun. It's not togetherness. It's not integration. It's separation. So war is a dance of separation. And a
Yeah.
party is a dance of community.
Yeah.
And I don't know why we're always so hell bent on doing the dance of war. I don't know. It's everywhere now. Everywhere. There's just these little cults of personality all over the place. And, whenever me and you try to talk about some of this stuff,
Yeah.
people have all this shit. And they're like, no, you're wrong. You got to do our jargon. You got to listen to us. You're an amateur. What do you know? You're stupid. Try to belittle us and make us feel like garbage. And if you stick around there long enough, I think some people get convinced they are garbage and they have to listen to daddy, or because that's what some of these YouTubers are. They become your mommy or your daddy, depending on what problems you have.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like,
and not a good one, like a devouring mother.
Yeah.
A tyrannical father. Not good.
And I feel like that gets into like this Kronos like kind of energy again. It's like, I guess like people are used to that, and then they gravitate towards that kind of energy where like a Zeus or something would be like he wants to see his kids to be empowered, like he cares about his kids. So it's like what you said also with Odin and Freya, like they care about their children and they care about humanity too, but they very much care about their children too. And it's like, and I feel that's kind of missing, like that we're like the sense of community where people are just not like I am right or something, but like no, you need to, and these people need to be somehow submissive or something, where this whole Kronos energy, instead like to have this energy of like community and that we're empowering each other, because it's like the community as a whole is stronger if we're empowering each other. It's like the same with the Choreos pack. It's like they were empowering each other because they were like, well, if it's just only one strong leader and everyone else is basically they're not empowered and they're not like they're what they can be, then that's not really good. Like, you don't want that. Why would we want that? Why would we want to have just one very? It's like it's kind of like just wanting to have like one like big giga chat there in the center, going like, oh, I'm the giga chat, and then everyone else needs to be basically just needs to be like acting like they're weak and going like, oh yes, and praising the giga chat. It's like what,
they got to be they got to be cucked and simped and dominated in order to have quote unquote salvation. I could get way into a lot of stuff like that, with the Mother Mary, and how did Joseph feel? I mean, if I was Joseph, I'd be like, what the fuck? Who put that baby in you? That's like a cuckold. Joseph was cuckolded by God in order to bring forth Jesus. And I just think, God should have had his own wife that he got pregnant, and then they could have sent that child down. And I know there's a whole lot of stuff of, God is the spirit and all this and that. Yeah. But with the Norse mythology, Odin was able to come down to the earth no problem. Thor was too, in the form of, the raven, and Thor in the form of lightning and thunder. Those were the ways they interacted with us, But anyway, I digress. I don't want to say any more heretical things and piss off the audience. That's just my perspective.
Yeah, but where was I going with this? Well, I mean, I guess the idea with all of this also is like, empowering. It's like we should be empowering each other. So there's like we are all bringing our strengths to the community, and we can empower each other, and we can like cheer each other on in that sense, because then we can make like a community that can dance together, and we have all these different strengths that these people can bring, because everyone has their own strength, their own puzzle piece to bring to the community to like add something to it that we wouldn't have otherwise. And I kind of feel like that's what that's kind of part of it too, because like think about it with like with the Sky Father and the Earth Mother like coming together, and they have the child, like they it's also with the Corybantes, for instance, and they were protecting the divine child. They're protecting the child, so they nurture it so it can grow up and become its full potential, like what the child can be, what's in the child, instead of trying to control the child, or like like a Kronos energy would, or trying to mold it into something, but to kind of like nurture it, so that people can bring what they can. So they go out there and they come back and they can bring what's in them. But but I'm kind of feeling like community is part of that too, and I kind of feel like community in the sense of that men and women can come together. That it's not just dudes. It's not just women. That it doesn't become like this sausage party up in heaven or something, but that there's like men and women that can come together and can and families coming together, and we can like work on things, and we can like figure things out.
Yeah, without having to bend a knee and get on the ground and kiss the dirt. Because we're worms, we're nothing, we're scum, and we don't deserve to be alive, and all this stupid bullshit. I'm good on that. I'm good on that. And also, we were talking about the culture war and things like that. The culture war is full on that energy of Kronos. Full on. It's like the liberals are like, get on your knees. Get on your knees. And people are not going to do that. People aren't going to bend a knee to that. People are not bending a knee to the church anymore either. People are standing up.
Mm.
And I'm very proud of that. I'm very happy to see people standing up, standing their ground, drawing a line in the fucking sand, saying, if you cross over here, you're done. It's over. You will be destroyed if you cross over into this territory now. I don't see people going into the liberal territories attacking them. People just want to be left alone. They're trying to make their walls of Eden and create their communities. I see a real concerted effort with that in the form of homesteading, in the form of off-grid living. It's been happening for 20 years. So there's a lot of hope and goodness. It's just not talked about enough. Everybody's focusing on the bad, the burning cities, the political stuff, the culture war, the rampant feminism, the abortions, the transgendered stuff. All these things are the main focus, but there's also a large majority of people that are getting off the train. They're checking out. They're done with this. And I think that's where the future lies, is with those people. Those people that are trying to navigate their ship themselves with their family. Like, there's a lot of people that went off and built their own arks, like Noah, and they're getting ready for whatever is going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. Are we going to have a civil war? Are we going to have World War III? Are we going to get invaded by aliens? Is Terminator going to take over the planet and we're all going to be robot slaves? I don't know. But I know there are people that are aware of these dangers. They're aware of the cliff that's up ahead, and they've got off. They're done. They're not going in that direction anymore. They've split off and created their own vessels and are navigating under their own power. And I think that's encouraged by whoever or whatever created us, or whatever the story is. I don't whatever wherever we come from. I think that's exactly what it wants us to do. It doesn't want everybody to just get on one knee and worship it. It wants you to stand up and understand and go through life and dance and try to have a good time while you're here and leave something nice behind for your kids.
I think so. And I guess in that sense, I don't know. I guess it puts things. I guess I don't know. I'm kind of like thinking here about this sense of like death right now, like how I guess also it's just an acceptance maybe of death, and like and not to be afraid of the unknown and of all these different things that we're all like that so many people are afraid of and like trying to control and everything, that to kind of like surrender to that to some degree, like being like, okay, well, there's definitely a whole bunch of things we can't control, there's stuff we can control to some degree, but that we're not going out there trying to kill or dominate things, but that we're, like you said, like we built the fence, we built this relationship to these different aspects within ourselves, but also the community, and have that and nature, and but then back again, like to the sense of community, like, well, and that's kind of not, then I guess, like how do we, I guess, again build these relationships between men and women, like how can we make that happen, like that men and women talk to each other again, and that's not just about the sleeping together and we never and then never talk again, and like that there's, I guess, like more of a community maybe is one way, that there's like and families, like something like that brings it to together. And I mean,
well, I think there's some people that have figured this out and do have successful, stable families that dance together and sing and do music.
Mm-hmm.
I think those people are the role models that people are going to have to emulate. Like that we do have people out there that are doing. There are some wonderful YouTube channels of families showing you how to live off grid, their experiences, what they're doing, the songs that they sing and the adventures that they have. I just don't know how you convince people to try that. I mean, I don't even know if we should convince them. I think just people that want that will seek it out, like I did. I sought it out. I found it. And everybody else that's not interested, they're just going to die alone. They're not going to procreate, or they're going to, cut their genitals and make themselves sterile, and they're not going to live on unless they can convince other people to be transsexual, or to be just have casual sex and have abortions. That it's like that in itself is like a program, like a software that is trying to interfere with the hardware. So I don't know I don't know what we can do for those people, because those people hate us.
I don't know. I kind of feel like in some sense with certain people, from what I've figured, at least certain people, it's like, especially if there's like trauma and such things involved. Because if I look at myself, way back, it's like more towards like 2016, 17. I used to be pretty like involved in a lot of this culture war stuff from a more right wing side. Then I looked at a lot of the trauma that I had, and I worked through that, and that kind of like changed the entire perspective of things, because I've been working on marrying the heart and the mind together to get those two things to work together more. That's kind of what I've been working on since since I started with that. But the thing is that I think that is possible. I think there's a lot of like regarding trauma, like a lot of healing there. That we can get into that with the whole like soul loss, individuation, like stream idea more. and go into that more. But I kind of also feel that maybe it's also the sense of community as well, where maybe if like because there's these homestead people that do the homesteading, these different families, but maybe it's also about building this parallel structure, this network of families and all these different people that are tired of the culture war and tired of these things, that do want to relate to each other in a more authentic way, that's not just casual sex and just all this other stuff, that there's like because I do feel there's plenty of these people out there that are tired of this, and I kind of feel like one of the things that is missing is this sense of community, because all these different people are feeling isolated and they're just kind of like, they don't know about each other much, and there's so much focus on all this negative stuff all the time. It's kind of like drowns out like all the people that do all these positive things and are trying to fix these problems, to bring these pieces together, to try to marry the heart and the mind again. And I kind of feel like there needs, I don't know, like maybe like to figure something out with that, like how to build that community of these kind of people, to bring these people together and to to do something with that, so that we, if because I feel like if there is this community, there's this alternative that that might actually pull people in. Because what do people really want? Because I do think that on both sides, what these people want, like even the people that are there down on their knees, like worshipping the bookshelf right now, or the Giga Chat, or whatever they're doing, I kind of still feel like they have that need for belonging. They have that need for being part of something. They have that need of love. I think the need of love and these things are there in people, even though they might like repress it right now, or they there might be stuff going on there. But I think deep down there is that human need there. It's part of our humanity, like part of who we are. And I kind of feel like. This kind of community is part of that, like that can help to pull people out of this culture war stuff.
Yeah, at the very least, give people an alternative to Andrew Tate saying you don't need to have any feelings, you need to just dominate and make, become a pimp and make all these women, revolve around you instead of using the color palette. That's a very black and white Kronos energy there that is not going to take off into the future. It's going to be stuck right here in the dirt, going nowhere fast. And so I think over time, people that are building these communities, like what we've done, are going to start to maybe search it out if they want to. I don't know if everybody is. And maybe somebody, wants to go get with another community. They have another goal that they want to do. I don't know, whatever. But ultimately, I really believe it's going to sort itself out and it's going to be fine, because a lot of people are starting to take their own lives into their hands, and they're not listening to the news. They're not listening to politics. They've checked out of the culture war, and they've scattered, and they're doing fine. And I think, when the dust settles, we have a real good chance to come together and dance about it.
Yeah, and I think and I really feel like from that, like things can really move forward again. Because I do feel like, when there is that community, like, when we marry that internally, and we can then do this dance, not just alone, but with like with the whole, with the community and nature. We can do that again. That things, because that's the kind of the vision that I'm seeing, like that I'm at least striving for. That we do that dance again, and that we can do that, and that kind of gives me a lot of hope as well. Because I do think, and I do see a lot of people that are out there, even though like sometimes I'm a bit like discouraged, because I go into these like culture war pockets and all that kind of stuff that's out there, and I'm like, oh god. But it's, I guess, like, yeah, it's also good to remind oneself once in a while, like, yeah, there's all these other people out there too, though, that are doing that. They're doing the homesteading. They're working on this, and there's different facets of the whole, and I feel like, yeah,
Yeah, I feel like those people have rediscovered the color wheel. They have put the books back on the shelf and they have put the kids in the house and they get it. They understand it.
yeah,
Not all of them are like super religious or super atheist. They're like in the middle of like, yeah, I don't know, but I have a farm and I have a family and I built my own house and I'm going to figure it
mm-hmm.
out along the way. I'm not going to be afraid of the unknown. I'm going to go out into it and I'm going to dance with it. And I really truly believe a lot of people fully understand this. It's just, I think me and you have been able to describe it and share the distillation with people is the most
Mm-hmm.
important thing to me because
Yeah,
I just want to make people aware of the options. I don't want to get
mm-hmm.
up here and preach to people and say, "Oh, you're wrong, you're wrong." But
Oh
I'm
yeah,
going to go over in this direction, and if you come in my direction with your really bad Kronos energy and you want to like devour everything, I just can't allow that.
yeah,
But people take offense to that. They're like, "You're not allowing me to come and ruin your house and ruin your family and ruin your kids. You're a Nazi." And it's like, okay, guys, this is going to lead to war. We really need to let each other have our own space and freely associate with who we want
yeah,
and stop this tyranny. It's going to cause some bad blood, and I'd
yeah.
like to avoid that.
Oh, same, same. I think we should be able to avoid it if we work on that. I feel like,
Yeah,
yeah, but I kind of also feel that bringing that, like, thinking back about that with the trauma aspect too, because remember that me and you talked like quite a while ago together about these attachment styles and like how like trauma kind of like leads to these different like insecure attachment styles and this way of
yeah,
like relating. And I where, like, there's some people that are they have like avoidant attachment style. They're like avoiding like romantic relationships like altogether. And then there's the anxious, and then there's the they're like they need the reassurance, and they're desperately like trying to find someone. They need to be desperately with someone, and there's like a lot of anxiety there too with them about abandonment and these things. And then there's there's the fearful avoidant, and then there's the avoidant and the anxious,
yeah,
and there's this like there's different like insecure attachment styles. And then there's this like trauma that's there, and then there's the like what I said to you, like this hurt, like inner child, or like this hurt, like the trauma wound that's there. And then there's these people that then become well, in a Jungian sense it would be like anima or animus possessed. It's like something that takes over, and it kind of like puts them into this singular spot of the mandala. Wait, I want to bring the mandala back.
yeah,
It's like they get put back into a singular spot. It's like they go full onto, like, I don't know, like Athena or Hecate or something, or Zeus.
yeah,
And where they can't dance, they can't go anywhere. They're just full on that. And then they but this archetype, the anima or the animus, is this archetype that possesses them, then tries to protect them from further harm. But then they become all mean, and they become all like controlling, and all like weird about things. And then they're not really relating, but they're acting out of this sense of fear again, out of this sense of like needing to control in some particular manner. Depends on the insecure attachment style. The avoidant one just wants to be completely away from people, doesn't even want relationships, let alone like So that's there, and the fearful avoidant, and then you have as well that's this very like I guess ambivalent about that thing, and then there's the anxious one, and even the anxious one, can lead to this weird sense of control. Like they need to control, like the person. Like they need to look at your phone, be like, and basically surveil everything what you're doing, because they're constantly checking for abandonment and these kind of things. But that leads to us, like men and women not being able to have families. Like, because if the man and the woman can't relate to each other, there's not really there's not this I guess stable nurturing environment there for the kids really. Like to some degree, maybe depends on how, like, the severity of it, but it's important regarding that. And also, hey, Flora, I just want to say hello, welcome to hop on. Hello. But but I kind of feel like that's kind of part of it too, and I've been like looking into that and these dynamics in the culture war, and I've started to realize that with the men and women that are like fighting each other, or like in this divorce stuff happening too, because there's a lot of that, and I feel like a lot of that also boils down to these attachment styles. It's like a lot of it, the time it tends to be like when that happens, it's like there's both trauma and both like the man and the woman. Then there's this either this fearful and avoidant, or like fearful avoidant and avoidant, or fearful avoidant and anxious. Like there's different combinations and the different trauma that's there, and then something triggers that, and then they're lashing out at each other. And I feel like that this trauma there and this soul loss leads to this conflict. It's like there's this inner conflict between the mind and the heart, and then there's this conflict between the man and the woman, because they have this inner conflict, and then they lash out, and then and then there's this fight going on about these things.
It's like the soul loss is black and white thinking, and Windhorse is rainbow thinking. And I think it's ironic that the liberals use the rainbow as their flag, but in reality, when you talk to them, they only think in black and white. Just like evangelical Christians, like it's a religion. It's turned into a nastiness of I'm right, you're wrong. If you get in the way, we will kill you. We will dominate you. We will destroy you and your families, and we will steamroll you with new laws. And that's why a lot of people, had that mass exodus from California. There's just a lot of madness, and everybody went to Texas. Why? Because in Texas, people aren't that extreme and in black and white thinking. They are actually more in rainbow thought of seeing different shades of things, unlike these liberal people, which I think, again, is just so ironic. They've got the rainbow flag, yet they think in black and white, and they're angry all the time with no love in their hearts whatsoever. I have never seen any indication that there's love in there. It's resentment, it's hatred, and it's the desire for destruction.
Yeah, but I kind of feel with a lot of these things on both the left and the right, in that sense, these different individuals, there's all this there's all this Kronos like energy there, and there's like this the Kronos energy also applies in a more like way. It's not just the structure overall, like like a societal structure, really, like what it boils down to, because the societal structure really boils down to the individuals, because the individuals really create the structure as it is. And if you boil that down, it comes back to the family, and it boils down to like how is the mom and the dad relating to each other? How are they relating to their kids? Are they bringing Kronos energy into it? Are they being like, is the wife bringing Kronos energy into the relationship, trying to control the man, or the man the woman, or or both each other, and are they trying to control their kids?
Oh, I gotta tell you about this. So
Yeah.
there's this Brothers Grimm story called The Juniper Tree.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about, this mother, she can't have kids, and so she's like outside cutting an apple, and she cuts her finger, and she bleeds into the ground, and she makes a wish. She said, "I wish I had a son with skin as white as snow and lips as red as
Yeah.
blood." And anyway, she gets pregnant, but in childbirth she dies. And then the father, he eventually remarries this woman, and he has another kid with her, a daughter. And anyway, long story short, the stepmother hates this kid,
Yeah.
the son that was born out of, like, I don't know, like a magical wish or something like that, an appeal to the divine. And
Yeah.
she wants to kill the son so that her daughter inherits everything. So what she does is, he wants an apple, and she tells him it's over there in the chest, and he gets into the chest, and then she slams the chest on his head and cuts his head off, and it falls in the chest. And what she does, she's afraid somebody's going to blame her, so she has to pin it on somebody. So she decides she's going to pin it on her daughter. So she wraps a handkerchief around his neck and fastens his head back to his body and sits him outside holding an apple. And she said, go ask your brother for an apple. If he doesn't give it to you, knock him on the head. And so he's dead. He can't answer her. So the daughter knocks her brother on the head, and his head falls off, and she thinks he kills him. And then the mother says, "Oh, don't worry, sweetie. We'll cover this up. I'll protect you. Let's cook him up in a stew and chop him up and put him in there." And so they chop up the little boy, and they throw him in a stew, and the father gets home, and they feed the father his own son. And he's like, "Oh, it was delicious." And the way that it was seasoned is the little girl cried so much, she felt so bad because she thought she killed him. That is what seasoned the stew, was her tears.
Oh
And
God.
anyway, right. She feels so bad, like the father eats the stew and he throws the bones of his son under the table. And the daughter is so upset, she takes the bones of her brother and she buries them outside underneath this juniper tree. And anyway, the next day, a bird flies out of the bones and starts flying around singing a song saying, "My mother killed me and chopped me up and put me in a stew and fed me to my father." And he goes around and sings this song to all the townspeople. He goes and sings it to a goldsmith. And the goldsmith says, "Please sing me that song again, bird." And he says, "Not for free. If you give me a gold chain, I'll sing it to you again." And then the bird sings it again, and the goldsmith says, "That was so beautiful. Here's a nice, fine golden chain." The bird takes it. He flies off. He sees some
Mm-hmm.
other people making shoes, and he's just singing a song. And then the guy making shoes says, "Mr. Bird, please sing that song again." And he's like, "Not for free. Give me those red shoes and I'll sing you a tune." Sings another tune and he flies off again. He has a pair of shoes and a gold chain. And then the bird sees a bunch of masons working on a stone, like big old stones, like for
Yeah.
bridges
Yeah.
and buildings. And he sings the song, and then all the people slowly stop working, like 20 people are working, and then 5 are working, and then none are working. They're all listening to the bird singing. And all of them together say, "Mr. Bird, please sing us that song again." And he's like, "Not for free. If you give me one of those stones, I'll sing you a tune." And so he sings another song, and they cut a hole in the stone so the bird can put its head through it and carry the stone with his neck. And then he flies off with a stone, a gold chain, and a pair of red shoes. And he goes back to his father's house with the stepmother and his sister, and he sings that song outside. And the stepmother hears it, and she's terrified she's going to get found out. And so the father goes outside to hear the song. He said, "That's a beautiful song, Mr. Bird." And the bird drops the gold chain around his neck and gives him it as a gift. And he goes back inside. He's like, "This bird sang me a song and gave me a gold chain." And the little girl gets excited, and she runs outside. And she says, "Mr. Bird, sing me a song." And he sings a song, and then he drops her a pair of red shoes for her to wear. And then the stepmother is kind of excited. She's like, "Maybe I'll get a gift." And she goes outside to hear the bird sing. And as soon as she walks outside, the bird drops the stone on her and crushes her into a pulp, and it kills her. and then the stone is set on fire, like it just bursts into flames and it burns up, and that stone turns into the little boy that was killed. And then the father and his sister hold hands and they go back into the house and sing a song.
I know exactly from a Jungian lens what happened there. That's the story, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you want me to give an analysis of the story?
Please do.
Okay, so the stepmother in folktales from a Jungian lens symbolizes the devouring mother archetype. So it's like a feminine Kronos kind of archetype.
Yeah.
And the child is in this sense, it's the it depends on I guess like who you tell the story to. It can be kind of either be the animus for a woman, or it can be the man, or like the boy, like a boy, and either the girl can be the animus the anima, or a girl. But the entire thing is that the cutting up of the boy, the blaming, so there's so you have the stepmother. The stepmother is the devouring mother archetype, or complex, really, the negative mother complex. And then that leads to psychologically to repression. So she kills the boy. The boy is the potential that can grow and blossom into something that gets killed by the devouring mother. And then so she kills him, but then she blames it onto the daughter. The daughter can be for instance, the anima, or it can be or the woman's ego, and that's the animus that gets killed. But like both are valid. But let's pick a boy, and that being the anima. So then the anima is like crying about it, about like after, because she thinks she kills she. The aspect thinks like that she's weeping about it, about the loss, and there's this and blamed for it. So there's this sense of blame onto that there. But the cutting off of the head is also symbolically linked to it's the removing of the
masculine.
The masculine. It's removing the head from the body. The body is the instinct. The head is the intellect. And then normally the devouring mother archetype does that. Like she kind of like separates the man in that sense from his instinct, from his and traps him into the intellect. And then
in a box, his head gets in a chest, caught in the chest.
Yes. And then the thing is that she then blames it on the daughter then in the story. But the thing is that then they chop him up. The chopping up symbolically is the same thing with Osiris too. It's the act of basically it's what the trauma does. It kind of like breaks it, fragments it into pieces. It's the devouring mother that shatters it into pieces. The soul. So the soul gets lost. It gets. So maybe it makes even more sense from the perspective of a woman. It's like her animus, her soul, or like this that represents this connection to the soul gets split into these parts. So it's like the soul, and it's the loss of the soul. So she's weeping about that. The father is then unaware of that. What the devouring. Okay, Lavan. So what she's doing with that, like the cutting up, is like that symbolizes this fragmentation, the soul loss, the loss of these different aspects of ourselves, the connection to the self, to who we are and what we can be. You know, the boy being able to grow into a man. Then he becomes the bird. And a bird is a symbol of intellect. You know, it can fly. You know, and it's something
like the Sky Father.
It's like the Sky Father, exactly. But you know, but he then goes to these different places and acquires these different things. And a lot of these different stories like this, there's also a Russian tale. The boy needs to do all kinds of different things to basically defeat the devouring mother and overcome her and become a boy again, and to be able to grow into a man. You know, and he does that in the story. He gets the red shoes, the gold necklace, and and the stone. And the stone is also a symbol of the self, in of itself too. So now, in the end, like, you know, he gives them the red. So the necklace, the gold necklace, he gives them. You know, gold is a symbol of the self too, and this gold necklace, he gives that to the father. Then he gives the red shoes to the daughter. So, you know, his sister in the story, but it can be the anima. The red shoes represents also vitality, for instance, as well. And then so he gives
like moving forward. Yeah,
moving
like mobility, shoes. And the chain, the gold chain, I think represents, you know, the strength of the father that, you know, holds it together. Links.
Yeah, exactly. And then so there's that there, and then the stone is connected to the Jungian self, so the center of the psyche. But the fire that comes from it when he drops it on her and that kills her is, you know, fire is libido, it's instinct, it's the
cleansing,
and it's the cleansing. So in from what I know myself, it's like, you know, it's the tapping into meta instinct, and then that bursts up, and that is what kills the complex, because it's this like burst, it's this fire that bursts up from the self, that comes up and then basically cleanses the complex. It just bursts through it. It just consumes it in fire. This like you know, and then from that, then indeed he's reborn, because there's this death and rebirth that happens, because, you know, then these parts can come back together. Yeah, like the phoenix.
Yeah, oh yeah, and the phoenix is a bird too. Yeah, yeah, it's the phoenix for sure. Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, I didn't realize that till just now.
But, you know, that's like regarding that. But, you know, the whole thing also is that, you know, there's a lot of men there and women that are like, you know. I was listening to this Jungian Life where and I had been looking into the parental complex and different articles about it as well, and where it says basically that when it comes to that, with the trauma and kind of like, I guess in that sense, the soul loss and like these devouring Kronos energies for, like, you know, the devouring mother, the devouring father, and this control that's going on. It's kind of like keeping men and women. It's like a child living in a man or a woman's body. That's basically what it is.
You know, the way he defeated evil was through singing and dancing.
Yes.
You know, like he lying around. That's like a form of dancing, you know, and everybody thinks it's beautiful to watch birds. There's whole groups of people that do bird watching because they enjoy that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of does come full circle. That's why I wanted to share that story. I knew when we like got into it and analyzed it, it would to reveal itself, because something about it, like I just kept rereading it and thinking about it. I was like, man, there's something here. I don't know what exactly, but throughout our whole conversation, that's what it is. It shows you. That's the wind horse, the singing and the dancing and collecting of different items and exploring the world. And then what did he do? He came back home.
Yes.
He came home to bring these items. He didn't come back with nothing. He even came back with something for his stepmother.
Yeah. But, you
know, and also the juniper tree represents his mother that died.
Yeah.
Because when she died, the juniper tree sprouted and, you know, came out.
Yeah,
So she's still
uh-huh.
there,
Yeah.
and she might even be part of the bird, because when the daughter buried the bones at the tree, that's where the bird came out.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of depth to there. And, the tree represents Mother Earth. And
Yeah.
then the bird was like Father Sky. And then it was coming together to defeat evil through Windhorse
Yeah,
singing and
but it's
dancing.
also like symbolically there's this a lot of the symbolism there too with the hero, where there's the Earth Mother, with the chorus, for instance, it's the Earth Mother and the Sky Father coming together, and it's these two
Yeah.
coming together to perform, like, and that's the child, and then the child is like the thunder god, the two coming together into forming the third, and then um, and that's what then fights the snake. It's and then rides on the wind horse, and yeah, and overcomes this, and does this dance. But I want to also welcome Lavan. Welcome on board.
Oh, hey. Nice to talk to you guys. I didn't expect to be brought on. That's totally cool, though. Hey, what's up?
Yeah, things are going great in the exploration of what we're doing.
Yeah, man. Yeah. What do you think about all this stuff we're talking about? What's your take on it? Or did you
Well,
just pop in?
it's
I don't know if you've been listening up to this point or not.
so I
Yeah.
from what I gather, you're talking about the symbolism of the wind horse.
Right now on at this point, yeah, we're kind of like talking about this need of the coming together of the masculine and the feminine, and like the mind and the heart, and the wind horse is kind of, I guess, also part of that, like to overcome what blocks this coming together, and yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so this is
We
pretty.
got.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Lavan.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, we were talking earlier about Kronos, this Kronos energy that seems to have possessed most major religions, where, they got rid of God's wife, they got rid of God's children, they got rid of the family, the cosmic family. They devoured it just like Kronos. And we're talking about, Kronos is the father of time. He has knowledge of time. The knowledge of that time bred fear in him. Like, he's afraid he's going to lose his power to Zeus or his kids. Or, he's afraid he's going to die. He doesn't want to give up the power. He doesn't want to pass on the scepter of Nyx. He doesn't want to pass the baton to his kids. So he eats them. And that energy has possessed most of these major religions, where we once had a massive color palette of like Apollo and Athena and, all these different archetypes. We killed all of them until there's just a few things left, and it's just the whole color wheel has been reduced to black and white. And we're sitting around here wondering, why is that? And that's kind of what the podcast has been about, because it started out as, where is God's wife? How did they get rid of her? What is the purpose? The purpose is fear. The fear leads to tyranny. The tyranny leads to getting rid of all the colors and pulling all the books off a shelf and worshiping an empty bookshelf and saying the bookshelf is what holds up all of reality. The bookshelf is holy, yet inside of it, it's hollow, it's empty. There is no wife. There is no kids. There is no love. There's only fear. There's only bend your knee or you're damned forever. There's no salvation unless you submit out of fear. So that's kind of the line of thinking that we've taken through this whole thing of where's God's wife at? Where's she at? What happened? He was afraid of her, or we were afraid of her. We got rid of her, and it's caused a lot of these symptoms, such as feminism and even transgenderism, and then the approach to AI and Neuralink, and wanting to escape the body, escape the heart, the feminine, and embrace the Sky Father, the masculine, the mind, the brain, and abandon the forests in favor of the quote unquote future, this cyberpunk future of you're stuck in a fucking machine and it's impossible for you to sing and dance because you don't have a heart anymore.
Makes sense to me.
So we've just been taking our time trying to distill all this super complicated stuff out to where, common people can jump on in the conversation too, and not have to go get a PhD in theology or something to participate.
Yeah. Also,
Well, I
Gavin,
got
welcome for listening in. But go ahead, Lavan.
I pretty much just think my angle comes from looking at what's going on with occultism, predating a lot of these religions that are doing what you're talking about. And I was talking to Bass about this ritual that seems to be a part of this process. In my opinion, there is a cognitive process that's underlying what you're talking about, where what we call the feminine and masculine exist within individuals. I don't really particularly. I don't think it's masculine and feminine. I think it's a much higher order substances going on in people. But that there's a process of cutting off essentially the intelligence of a person, which I think is remnant of a much older rite, which was good, but then as a process of cutting this off, essentially people are they're I'm sorry, I didn't really come mentally prepared for this. They're basically making it so that the ego is subservient to the spatial sort of awareness that a person has. It's like the clarity of death, or like the clarity of egolessness, is kind of a double-sided blade. It's like on one hand it brings clarity, but on the other hand it also brings a sort of totalitarian sort of awareness, because all the things that you've cut off, essentially, like if you were to castrate yourself, or if you were to die and then become aware, you would have a completely different set of goals, right? And this is the kind of awareness that I think is the head of the kind of worshipping of the hollowness that you're talking about. I could probably worded that better. But yeah, I do
think that's what you're putting down with that. Yeah, that's basically what we're talking about is people want to cement themselves into a single position, or pick a hill to die on, instead of participate in the dance of life, which Bass represents through that mandala. Like, that's the shamanistic journey, is a dance. They even dance around the campfire when they're doing their shaman stuff. It's representing the fact that we have to pivot and dance around to like Apollo, Isis, Jesus, Sky Father, Mother Earth, all these things. You can't just stand in the center and think that you've got it figured out. The center is just a structure, like a Celtic knot, or the cosmic man, the Celtic knot. It's not like me and you. It's not alive in the same way. It's a bookshelf that holds all these different things, or it's a house that keeps a shelter for a family. And if you kill everybody in the house, you kill the family, and you get on your knees and you start worshiping the house, you don't have a future anymore.
Yeah, and I kind of feel with that it's like, because the house isn't bad. There's nothing bad with the house. But I kind of feel like, I guess it's where originally with the Buddhists there was there's this idea of non-self, where there's actually the self, or or like like the I forgot how that term is. It's not the Brahman, but the higher form of that. It's kind of almost like the force. That's kind of like without form, but it's like because they realized that we should not worship that or try to identify with it. That's why they talk about non-self. Because the thing is that once we start to identify with that, or we start to worship it in or like in that way, and we lose sight of that there's both that and there is all these other parts to it, we get too focused on a singular thing and we identify with that, and then we're fucked, because it's because they see it as a trap, because it is a trap, because you start to focus on just one thing, you stop to dance. Because I feel like the whole idea with the cosmic man, or like it's not really, like Neirum said, it's not a man really. It's like the energy that's there, but it's in it in of itself. Because with one of them, instead of that, I put the Hiras Gamas there, or the Rasa Lila dance. It's like this dance that we need to do, instead of like yeah. And I guess there's that understanding there needed, that like we shouldn't try to be stuck in the center, or identify with it, or like be like that's it, kind of idea, where things get weird in that way. But then there's also all that fear stuff too with the Kronos stuff, because I feel like, because we talked about that too, like me and Neirum, about like that like it's the structure, the Celtic knot, and then we took all the other stuff out, because it's like, no, I only can have the center, the cosmic man, this highest thing, and all of the other stuff is evil or bad, like we need to push it all away. And then but then we at the same time we lose the cosmic man, the Celtic knot, everything that holds it together. It becomes empty, it becomes lifeless. And that like led me also to the idea of like Nietzsche, where his God is dead, and maybe and we have killed him, and maybe that's right. Maybe we have emptied the bookshelf. We have emptied all the parts that make up what God is, and we've called it all evil and fallen or some weird shit, and we want to get away from that, where we're not realizing that is all part of it. That's what makes up, like without the parts that make up, like that fills the structure, that brings the life force there. It's empty. It's dead. And we need kind of both.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, that's kind of like like what we've been talking about and thinking about, and like like how to I guess get that dance back, how to bring that back to people and community in a way that isn't overly I guess esoteric and very high, or like high amount of difficult like jargon indeed, so that people can reconnect with that, like they can dance again. I don't know if you have any ideas regarding that, Lavan.
Yeah, like I do a lot of ritual analysis, and I think that there's one big, huge ritual that's kind of, these different components are like parts of it, so they're like steps.
Yeah.
The concept of the steps, I think, is pretty, like you can imagine like the steps that like Thor took when he was gonna die after like slaying the world serpent.
Yeah.
Right? It's similar to this concept of like separating the body from the intellect, right? And so like, what does the body experience when essentially the nervous system is shutting down, when the that what goes on in that expansiveness? And I think there's a multi-step process that's actually very real, and these rituals and the Windhorse correspondence in particular is like one of the one of the steps. But the whole thing, I think, also needs to be looked at, and that's when you get into the ethics of like how it's going on. Like, are we are we are we getting rid of too much, um, without paying attention to the particulars? Like what if somebody else is like if you're going to cut off the head, well, whose head is going to take over the next part? And I think that's where it kind of gets muddy. And I think a lot of these rituals have gone astray in the sense that like they use actually they use the correct technology, the correct correspondences, but then they do it in a way where instead of, according to the Choreos tradition that you're trying to implement, instead of protecting the innocent part within the nervous system, it actually abuses it, and then things go astray.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can welcome Anastasios.
Yes,
hope I said that correctly. Welcome to the discussion. But yeah, so I mean, like we could go on. I could go on talking about that for a while because I want to do an autopsy. It's something that I'm working on. That I think that some of the rituals are stored up in black magic.
Good evening.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I hate to interrupt, but I got to go to work. But it was a pleasure speaking with you all, and let's do it again here soon.
Oh yeah,
have a good one, Neirum.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have a good
Thanks,
one.
guys.
Yeah,
right.
I'm still gonna.
See ya.
Yeah, I'm still gonna.
Keep it on, man. It's great stuff. But y'all have a great day. Bye bye.
All right.
Yeah, I'm still gonna keep on with you guys. But yeah, like you can for sure go on, Lavan, if you want to. And you can also chime in, Anastasios, if you have anything to add. I don't know how much you got from the talk, because you were talking about like God's wife, and maybe like let Lavan go ahead, and then we can take it from there further.
So the ritual I was talking about, the Bornless ritual, it's really popular. Crowley used it. A lot of Thelemites used it. It's been adopted into like such a satanic sort of different things. But it actually comes from the Greek magical papyri, and it seems to be like a remnant of what was going on. And to me, like the psychology of it seems very much likened to a lot of other types of things that, like the Abrahamic faith, the Sumerian attitude, where like the disempowered were the ones who were like the ruling class in a way, like the eunuchs had the highest office, things like that, and it's a way to empower them to also control them.
Yeah.
And in terms of what I'm talking about when I talk about the autopsy, I think that the headlessness, cutting off of the head, is actually a part of the cosmic structure of like human ascension. It's a part of it, so it's sort of like neutral, but at the same time it has to be done and considered a way so that during the process you can protect yourself. And that's something that people who are interested in magic and meditation know very well, that in a way what you pay attention to, what you put your intention to, is going to affect you on a psychological, unconscious level. So if they are doing this neutral rite while also, well, here's how they're doing it wrong. I'll just spit it out so then we can move on.
Yeah.
What they're doing wrong is that they are worshiping this dead. It's like the dead god. So one of the key phrases that I find in this poetry is the sight that is from the feet. So where does that, and where does that come from? So like when you eat something and you have diarrhea, there's heat, right? There's heat, and usually heat is a process of destruction, right? And so when you cut your head off was going to roll down next to your ankles. And so the awareness of your sort of like your ghost self is not the main consciousness, but it's a part of you, right? And so this part of you, I think, the key point is that it has to take a journey. So it is supposed to be brought into the ritual, right? Like I mentioned, and even the Chinese like have the steps of you, which is like a tantric uh, practice with energy work. Like I mentioned, Thor, right? The steps of Thor.
Yes.
This process is where this temporal main consciousness finds out that it's also part of like the ghost. It's a part of the space, and then it goes on a journey. But it's not the only part. And I think that the steps individually are the things that need to be like understood, because you have to go from one step to the next. And what these dark rituals seem to have done is it seem to have glorified the primary state before you even take the first step. So the death part, basically, the death part where you have found yourself to be egoless and irrelevant, is being raised up and given sovereignty. And then these things are basically giving over the head, where so the head is chopped off, but then the head comes back. But as a process of that coming back, you are as a part of the ritual and as a part of the whole mystic traditions, you are essentially taught um to praise like the high god, whatever the fuck that is. But then they use words. They use all these different like mystical names, including Jehovah. So if you get what I'm saying is that the main consciousness needs to become aware of itself in the steps, but instead the preliminary death is glorified, and then we worshiping Jehovah, and the steps are left out. The in between left, all the rites of passing, all the part where the ego actually gets to grow up and become an adolescent, and it's all taken out. And in fact, there's bloodshed as a part of these rituals, because like using like a decapitated head of somebody who's actually died violently is considered to have a lot of power for these. So like there's no like protection for the ego. There's no protection for the individual. And I guess that's where I leave it. It's like, if you're going to cut off the head and then worship Jehovah, you're essentially putting on the head of something else, and you're taking the individuality and the person out of the process, and you have basically have a ritualized society where subservience and not being a person is glorified, and violence goes hand in hand with that. So I don't.
Yeah, but it's
just, I'll leave it.
Yeah, I mean, if you bring it back to like the chorus tradition, for instance, there's this sense of death and rebirth there with not just the chorus but also the archetype. There's in the ancient sense, there's always a death and rebirth there. So there's this entire hero's journey that's connected to it as well. And there's all these different steps. And Carl Jung has been very active too with like mapping, trying to map that out. But there's all these different steps indeed there. You have to go through so you finally get to a relationship with the cosmic man, or like whatever you wanna call it, the high god. So there's that relationship there without this being this identification with it. But it's a relationship there. But like, yeah, for sure the ego consciousness has its purpose, and it needs to indeed grow and be able to grow up. If we just cut it down and just and go into this like ego bashing kind of thing, that's actually, it's not, even with the Buddhists, that's actually not the original sense of what it's about at all. It's not about like, oh no, ego bad. It's like, no, it's about the relationship between ego and self, and ego and the whole, like, and I guess I don't know, with that I kind of feel like there's also a lot of that, like that disconnect too with that. Like, if we're not a person and we're disconnected from that, and we're disconnected from who we are, in that sense. So we don't know that, and we become subservient to that. Then also, like, how do we relate to each other? Like, because so, like, what's the because yeah, there needs to be this, like, way that we can still function. That's where the ego is for. So that's just, yeah, that's one thing that came to mind with me. But yeah, go ahead, Anastasios.
Actually, what is interesting, it is in all these concepts, like you see in Buddhism, even Ganesha
Yeah,
is being beheaded by his father, and he's being put Shiva, and he's being put a new head like an elephant that
yeah,
is like more dense and more solid towards one direction. You see it even in a not so killing aspect, the sense of getting to manhood, wearing mask, or making an idol of yourself like Iron Mike. Is a stronger name for Mike Tyson when he was entering the ring. He
yeah,
was entering the dance and becoming Iron Mike. It is very similar to
mm-hmm,
the choreos type of passage. And the choreos also, in a sense, they are taking the annotation from Kyranos, that may be his role, and he makes all the other choreos, like
yeah. Anastasios, are you still there? I guess his internet cut out. Maybe.
Well, like, yeah, I think that this is exactly what I'm talking about, is that there will be usage of this neutral spiritual technology because it's likely how the universe exists, but it has to be done with respect.
Yeah,
And if you traumatize the person as a part of the process for no reason, I think that you prevent, in a way, you like circumvent the ritual from having its correct effect, and you keep it at a preliminary, like you basically, it's like you freeze the person, and they become very rigid, and then
yeah,
they become the ones who are they become the ones who are in control, and then they demand um subservience because of their weakness, and it's like a ongoing cycle. But in contrast, the one that he's talking about and what you're doing with the Koreos tradition
yeah.
is actually protecting it to make sure that the steps actually take place. And yeah, and then I by the way, I really like
Mm-hmm.
the symbolism of wind horse because I think it's really like it's like a big fat unconscious like
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's right in front of our faces all the time, and people have a hard time reconciling it. But that's what it's so why it's so great is it's like it's kind of all over the place. Like I think
Yeah.
it's connected to storylines, in my opinion, like storylines and kind of like this brief area where people convene in talking about like their triumphs over things like like that's like when you think about like dancing over the campfire, I think that's what goes along with it. It's like the storytelling, right?
Yeah.
And whenever you read a book, whether it's fictional or real, like you have the opportunity essentially to like believe in like a greatness. And that's when that wind comes in to your psyche. It's like, oh, possibilities, you know?
Yeah, it's just because there's that sense of vitality and the connection to these archetypal energies as well. But yeah, welcome back, Anastasios. Your internet broke off. I don't know what you wanted to still say.
my phone has problem.
Okay.
For some reason, it opens other windows and it kicks me out Discord.
Oh,
I hope it doesn't happen again.
hope so.
Yes, what I wanted to say is like the sense of persistence, and even there is in Buddhism there is a concept called fudosin, the unyielding mind. the immovable mind. And yes, like I was saying, there is a healthy part in ego, or it is how we should act, and ego like is a byproduct of the true self, and we don't really reach to a destination where we are really doing. We are mostly indulging in ourselves in ego.
One of the distinctions I like to make is that I think that ego is I think it's a little bit complex because you have, I think, something that we don't really have a term for, and then we have the ego. And I think that they've been kind of mixed up. And I need to make a new semantics to describe what I'm talking about, because I think it's very much like what Anastasios said, is like it's an unyieldingness. So like if you, and I think about it in terms of exercise or capacity or like artistic capacity, is essentially you have like something that you can do. You get to 20 push-ups, and then you can do a little bit more. And there's a part of you that knows that and wants to push you forward. And I consider that to be the ego. But the attachment to like material things, the attachment, and then the diligence in things. Oh, I can get a little bit more. I can get a little bit more appreciation towards me. I feel like it starts to go in a little bit of a different direction, and I think that's because there is a weakness that the human is trying to. It's like the illusionary quality, and that illusion. I don't know if I consider that the same as like weak as ego. I think that it's like there's a concept of like human becoming things, right? Which I find this channel is very much trying to illuminate people about, is like how to not become a thing, be a human being, get into the aliveness part of it, and the stiffness, the not alive, the part of the human that wants to give up and become just a thing, that's not, I don't consider really that to be an ego. Maybe there is like a way where the ego gets overtaken and to start to represent that drive, that stiffness, that the snow, the ice. Tries to become the ego tries to become ice, or maybe part of the ego has become frozen, but it's not, is the ice itself is not necessarily like a functional part. And so like I like to parse that out, but I think that
it's not really
it's important.
Go ahead.
Like a board archetype wants to be eternal like an archetype, but doesn't want to work.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know what you said, Lavan, also made me kind of think it's like it's not really the ego itself. It's kind of the because also we when taking it back to what me and Neirum were talking about, but regarding the whole idea regarding like Kronos and this kind of like us this mental state of trying to, like in the tyrannical form, like trying to control things. And it's like also with ego, or like it's not really the ego. It's kind of like it's almost like when we get cut off from instinct, from our bodies, from like and there's this lack of this connection between the mind and the heart and with and the body, and there's like this essence of like this traumatizing that occurs within the individual. That then there's this. It's almost like it's this fear, in like what Neirum also talked about. It's this fear that leads to this sense of tyranny and trying to control things, and then things become rigid, and then we don't dance anymore. And it's like this disconnect from instincts that leads to this disconnect from kind of this sense of wind horse, where we can dance with things that we. Like the ancient Greeks would say, through the dance we become civilized. But like but that means that, you know, we can still wiggle, we can still dance with these different energies that are there, you know, like we can work with the different gods, these different energies that they represent. And I kind of feel like, I guess that rigidness leads to this sense of that it becomes stiff, and it gets cut off from these different gods and energies within. Like we can't like they come up, and we there's no like dancing with it. They just come up and they can like take over, even where we feel like we need to control it, and we need to, and then we're not dancing anymore.
Is it possible that like wind horse is actually like a distinct physiological process? My intuition tells me that it's related to bacteria, the gut microbiome. I think as we progress like further into the subtlety, so like I work with a system where I kind of equate the Yogacardic idea of the 12 phenomenal world constructors of illusion as the same as the 12 nidanas, being the same as the zodiac signs. And so wind horse for me, I've talked to you about this before, is Taurus, right? So like preliminarily early on in the steps from 0 to 1, essentially you have the flesh. So the flesh has to be like broken up and like gone into. So you have like that mining warrior fighting for what is behind the ego, what is really driving the ego, and getting into that. And then from that to the second one, you start to get more subtle. And then, you know, as you progress, I think you get more and more and more and more breaking into the physiology. So like from the first 6 steps, I think that's like breaking apart the physical. And then from 7 to 12, you get to like really subtle modes of being. But for the second part, how do you go from breaking into the psyche to the next level? And I think that I kind of think as the concept of like Venus and Taurus having a lot to do with like getting past the clinging phase completely, where it's like you've broken apart the flesh in the first, and then through wind horse, you sort of like now have a new solidity, where it's like you kind of have a new stable ego. And I think that the reason I equate it to the gut microbiome is because that's actually really you can get really like intelligent about eating. You know, you can get really intelligent about like what's good going into your body, and it's sort of like its own being. And so the hoarseness part of it, the fact that there's like, you know, I think ATP is not necessarily a caloric thing, but it may be more of a bacterial thing. You know, it's like if somebody with a more healthy digestive system can eat less calories but have more energy, you know, and that's kind of how I think of it. It's just my intuition, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that from both the Jungian but also the shamanic lens regarding that. So there's 2 things that are going on, because I talked to John Vervaeke about it, and it seems to be that part of it seems to be in the brain, that there's like this.
Oh, you talked to him?
Yeah, like John Vervaeke. I talked to him about wind horse and like kind of the neuroscience behind it. So there's at least one thing going on in the brain where there's this sense of this coming together of these different parts of the brain in the corpus callosum and the regions that are surrounding it. That's like bringing the left and the right hemisphere and the front and the frontal cortex with the quote unquote lizard brain together, like, you know, the brain stem. But, you know, it's not just that, because the shamans, for instance, if you look at that, the wind horse rises up from the body. So, you know, there's this coming together. That's part of it. That's part of wind horse. in a more like the more esoteric kind of sense of the bringing together of all of these opposites, and then, like, it integrates the mind into the body. But there's also the vitality aspect of it as well. That's the awareness aspect, but then there's the vitality aspect as well, and that comes from the body. And I don't really know where that comes from. It's like comes from, I guess, instinct, but it through the connection to the body. But it's like I do think like maybe like what you said is part of it, because there's something like there with like, it's like, where does that energy come from? Like this kind of sense of vitality that like.
Okay.
Hmm?
Oh no, yeah, I'm just like just kind of like nodding to myself as you speak.
Okay, yeah. So it's like, so where is that vitality? In that sense, then coming from. One starts to then wonder. It's like, yes, the energy itself. Because it's interesting, because it's like when one is disconnected from it and the one is in the state of this kind of like Kronos tyrannical thing because of trauma, for instance. In this trauma fragments that the connection to the body, but also the different parts of the brain being disconnected more from each other, like through these blockages, then there's this lack of vitality. But if you bring that together and you connect the body to the body and the mind together, the heart and the mind, then there's also this vitality that comes up from the body, and in some sense, I guess, like can call it like the Kundalini energy. Some people would call it like that, or like the chi. And then the question comes then, like, what is that? Like, what actually is that? But I don't know. But I do know that also plays a part in this process of the coming together and this overcoming, and it's linked to this ability to overcome, but also to integrate, to help in the process of these different parts coming together, to bridge, like, the Earth Mother and the Sky Father, and to the heart and the mind, to bring these two together.
Well, this is actually really cool, because I think that I think I understand the first step in terms of like before Windhorse. I think it has a lot to do with like breathing and pranayama.
Yeah.
I think I'm not sure if I've told you about this part, but it's essentially when you are doing pranayama, if you're doing it like correctly and at an advanced level, one of the key points is that like you learn to slow down your breathing. And it seems to be like a natural physiological process where like once you kind of get into the flow with it, it starts to happen spontaneously.
Yeah.
And even if you don't train to do it, you might be meditating in a different state and actually accidentally start doing pranayama. That's how natural it seems to be. But what it's doing is that it's actually creating sort of like it's great when you slow down, you increase the ratio of carbon dioxide to oxygen in the lungs. And carbon dioxide is the primary exchange compound for the in the electron transport chain. So basically the point is that the more carbon dioxide you have in your body, or in your hemoglobin, the more oxygen can be exchanged. So if you don't have carbon dioxide in the cell, you won't be able to put oxygen into the cell because you can't take the carbon dioxide out because it's not there. And the same thing goes for the lungs. To get more oxygen into the lungs, you need to have a certain level of carbon dioxide in the lungs. And it's kind of counterintuitive because people are normally like feeling like oxygen deprived, and I think that that anxiety goes into the whole stiffness archetype, or that false archetype that we're kind of talking about. But essentially what it does is that it creates heat. There's pain because the anxiety is like mental pain. It's not really there. It's like pain when you're running, because like if you haven't been using your diaphragm, it's going to hurt to use it because it's all stiff and like calcified. And I think the same thing and it's the same thing here. essentially when you increase that ratio, it creates pressure. It actually more carbon dioxide is a vasodilator, so your blood vessels expand, and it creates increased pressure in your cranium. So intracranial pressure means more blood flow through the body and into the brain. And also bigger blood vessels means faster highways. So this is what essentially I'm describing what's going on in a person who's doing Anapana. So I think that for me, this is like the link is it like a distinct like trance process leading to trance states where in the first place you break up the body, so you break up the stiffness, you open the blood cells. Now you're number two. So now you're asking the question, what happens in number two? I think, well, one thing, I don't really have much to go on. I would like to get kind of, I've been looking at Vervaeke and I've been wanting to kind of get into that, but like I just haven't. But one of the things I have learned is that the heart the heart produces 9 times as many signals to the brain as the brain does to the rest of the body.
Yeah.
So that was really fascinating to me. And I guess my intuition is, what if the brain, before, like if you do not do step number 1 and you do not create that intracranial pressure, what if your brain isn't able to keep up with the heart? And then once you unlock that number 1, now you're able to receive those signals from, and maybe that's step number 2. I don't know. It's just, I'm just brainstorming.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, because from what I know from experience more really than anything, it's like when these different parts of the brain are coming together, there's also like at the same time this connection to the body, so maybe even to the heart. Yeah, the bridging the mind with the heart. And it's like when that starts to come together, and you become more embodied that way, kind of also, I'm just like, I don't know. There is more of a signal there. Like there's more information that you have access to. It's like you're more integrated into the body, and there's more of that is available to you in a way that's not overwhelming and not like it informs one more about like what's going on in the body, and what's like not only that but also what's going on through the senses of the body around oneself as well, feeling more connected to the world through that as well. So there's definitely like something like that going on there, from what I can figure.
Do you think that there's something about Windhorse where the person realizes that they're actually a person? Like they realize what life actually is at this step? In a kind of emotional realization kind of thing?
So how do you mean that? Like an emotional realization of what life is?
Well, okay, so like imagine that you're like a kid in society and you see all these people like doing different things and you want to be part of it, right?
Yeah.
But there's like this barrier between you and the world because like people have so much confidence and you just don't know how to get that confidence, and you like retreat because you just don't know what to do. But then suddenly you realize where you can get your confidence. You realize that you're like this, you're a big picture that's changing, that's taking in all these things. And then you realize that you can let in that confidence from other people. And then you realize, oh wow, this is the real world that I've always been kind of like blocked away from.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, like what I do know is that like through Windhorse we work through these blockages like internally, and I guess through that also externally, because it opens up these different possibilities that's in the same time as well. So and through that, like there is like a deeper connection with the world and with oneself. So in that sense, like the cultivation of wind horse, if one works on that and at the same time, works on if there's any trauma, like to process that, and even though it helps with that as well, and to work on really bringing these different parts together, one starts to gain a deeper connection with the self, with who you are, and also at the same time, that from that also comes confidence, because being reconnected to the instinctual layer, like probably through the heart, you also gain, from the instinctual sense, there's this sense of power and confidence that comes with it as well. And that's the source of that as well. Because even with the shamans, they see wind horse as this kind of like essence of spiritual power, which they also have to upkeep with like rituals to keep it up, because
oh, okay, all right,
yeah,
that's interesting. All right, would you liken it to the concept of, okay, yeah, you did, because you were saying chi, right?
yes,
You were saying that, okay, and similar to Megan, like Megan is like the carrier for the energy in the Norse tradition, right?
mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm starting to get a yeah, so it's something that's like always arising and fading. It's not really like
there's like
it has
practice
to be
involved.
worked on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it
There's
needs
like
to be
a
worked on.
charge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it needs to be worked on. Like you need to continue to practice. If you stop practicing, then it eventually starts to fall down and fall away. But there's different ways to practice it. Breath work, but also like I guess different like dance rituals, or these choreos rituals, for instance, as well. Like there's different ways how to tap into it. So it's pretty diverse, like what one can do. But
Okay.
but in general, a practice of sorts is like what they do, that they reconnect with it, and then they keep it up, because it's not just like, well, the idea is in Buddhism at least is that at some point you reach enlightenment, where then it becomes basically obsolete to practice, or the idea is, but I don't know about that. The only thing that I know is that generally speaking, people need to keep practicing, like the shamans, for instance, do that too, and that it's the same with like the Eleusinian mysteries, for instance, where they have this marriage of like the mind and the heart through their rituals. It's like they also did that every year. It's like for them it was a yearly thing through these psychoactive substances. But the key factor in that is that it needs to be a reoccurring thing. Like it's something that you have to do again and again. It's like it's not a singular event. It's like it's the same with like this idea of death and rebirth, like where I guess in Christianity it has become a singular event, where before that it was something that like, no, we need to do that, like we have to keep that up, because there's always stuff that can fall into the waters, into that flow. It can block it up again, and we need to keep working on that and keep that up, so that then these pathways are wide, and things can flow well.
I appreciate that. The reason I appreciate that is because I had like a fear of it when I was younger. I have an irrational fear of Christianity, of like most like church kind of like type mentalities. Like it's
Yeah.
kind of just scary. Like I guess you could say that I'm afraid of the ice itself. I don't really like, when I was younger, I didn't really understand how it works. But
Yeah.
the way that you're kind of talking, when you get to the core of like how these things work, you kind of like peel back some of the
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It just doesn't work that way. It's not like a power. It's not like a thing that. It's not like a poison. That the poison is like the way that you treat your life. So it's like if you don't have these things in your life, that's the poison.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's the poison that I feared is the fact that I didn't know how I would be. How would I stagnate? How would I become the ice? You know.
Yeah.
Um, but if you just say like the way you said it, okay, well you can just do these things. Well, it's like it clears up, I guess that's the problem is that people are not like in touch with um
Mm-hmm.
their roots. They're not in touch with the part of them that knows that they can just be free. So it's like if somebody does like some kind of like
Yeah.
dark rite or something, it's like it doesn't have power over you because like that's just the poison is the incompleteness, right? Just make it complete. Just go on, live your life, be complete.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But bringing it now, like because this too is like related to like this idea of bringing the heart and the mind together. Like tying it back now to like the whole idea with like God's wife and like the Earth Mother and the Sky Father. I don't know if you have anything still to add about that, Lavan, like about that
The Sky
idea.
Father and the Earth Mother.
Yeah, like this, because there has been like this rejection of that, where there's like now this need to reintegrate it, to bring it back together. So because you also talked about like the sense of that, like it's symbolically like that and spiritually the case, but also in like within us the case, but also just in a physical sense, it's like about men and women, and like in a communal sense coming together as well. Like that because it's it's on many levels. It's kind of something that we're missing, like this coming together of the feminine and the masculine in a sense of relationship, like a proper relationship. In these different levels in ourselves, in actually the wider spiritual world, like in nature and like earth and heaven in that sense, and and in the physical sense of men and women too, in that relationship kind of sense. I don't know if there's anything regarding that still, if you have anything that comes to mind.
Well, the way my correspondences work is that I consider
Mm-hmm.
going going um going inward, going downward to the earth is the direction that Skyfather wants to go.
Mm-hmm.
And usually people are encouraged to do the opposite, like it's an inversion. It's
Yeah.
most 99% of practices are inversion of the true rights, which is that like the two are like attracted to each other. So like um being like a fresh baby, you want to learn how to go inward. And I think that this to me this is the north node. So the
Yeah.
north node is not really understood, and I think it's the element that is left out. It's left out like when I was talking about these other rituals, right? They want to cut off the head. Well, the head is representing the north. It's representing the north node,
Yeah.
and the head, I think, the intellect wants to go dig deep, and that's the process. So like from 1 to 2, from digging inward,
Yeah.
releasing the vitality, and then learning how to communicate and build the charge with the vitality, you're going towards the north, which is into the core of the planetary structure. And then like everybody has this, so
Yeah.
basically everybody needs to go into the chest. But the core part, the north itself, I think is actually
Mm-hmm.
the fifth step. It's with the architectural pillars being um essentially Aldebaran at the east, Antares in the west, and then you have I think Rigel in the north,
Yeah.
um and then I forgot the south, but the south one corresponds with like Aquarius, and then the north corresponds uh, with um with Leo,
Yeah.
and the energy of Leo is like security guard. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I think very much like from Leo to Libra, it's like a heavy context of like law, science, um, and you're essentially getting the point where the person like gets their full psychic set. Like, it's like if you had a light body, it would be like attainment. To me, it would be attainment of light body, basically,
Yeah.
because that's to me that's what I hear in the Madhyata Vibhaga and the Buddhist
Mm-hmm.
conceptions. They talk about the fact that the basically that like you have a sense of self that
Mm-hmm.
is not complete until the sixth sense is reached. And that's the meaning of the fifth principle is what is that essentially
Yeah.
what is that sense that is not complete? And that's I think that's the Leo is essentially that you are on one hand you are like an indiscriminate complete beast, but that this beast learns to restrain itself knowing that it's not complete. And that's the I think that's what the light body is, because light is, it can be undifferentiated, it can be limitless, but it also has to recognize that it has civility. And I think that to me, that's what the Sky Father really is supposed to be understood as, is the process of going from beast to man, from becoming civil, and like essentially
Yeah.
finding yourself side by side with the beasts, but also side by side with men, and then like reuniting the two kingdoms. Um,
Yeah. Basically, I think so.
So that's just one side, though. You asked me about both, right? You asked me about
Yeah.
the mother and the father, and I think that the South is where you blend back into the ghost. I use the term ghost. I think you understand what I mean with like that young to live by channel and some of the things they've talked
Yeah.
about. Um, yeah, I think that's what, and then again, and then also sexuality, I think has been mastered by the North. So then sexuality post North, post Libra Scorpio, that's like if you want to get into
Mm-hmm.
the like the feminine mysteries, I think a person has to understand Saturn and has to understand those principles. Like, what does it mean to become a post Saturnian person? Is essentially to become a caretaker, to have that
Mm-hmm.
loving wisdom of the feminine. And it also corresponds to like I think higher magic, the wisdom of the stars.
Yeah.
um and that means that's going outward. So like you've gone into the earth, now you go outward to link, and linking constellations together. Link is like linking people together, so you got that Aquarian element where you're like bringing people together
Yeah.
simply by vibrating, and that's a concept that I think might be attributed to Aquarius as the principle of vibration in of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is like how do you emanate that care without a thought, without doing anything? It's
Yeah.
very the southern dimension is very ethereal in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
I'll leave it there.
Yeah. But it's interesting that they have then like inverted this process where yeah, it's just kind of sad in that way.
Yeah, I think that people who are traumatized,
Yeah.
who have a very, very delicate, very interesting piece of equipment can just, unfortunately, they can just do a lot of fucked up things. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what happened. I think that we have remnants from like super high, like probably like super high technology civilizations, and then something happened, and we got left behind with, um,
Mm.
I think that the people who are doing the right, I mean that the whole point of the North Node, the whole point of that civility is that you release the monster so that it can be free. And so people
Yeah.
might have been reclaiming that, and then that's scary to the person
Yeah.
who like worships subservience with themselves. So who's gonna bite first? Is it going to be the scary, the scary dude who's actually working on himself, or is it going to be the weak person who's like, always has like a dagger behind his back? Well, someone who's communing with the planet doesn't need to strike out of fear because they're not afraid of dying. And I think that's a key trait to the shamanic traditions, is that like they actually believed in the web, like they believed in the eternity.
I think so, yes. And I think it's very much like it's something I guess I just don't seem to understand. It's like even with the chorus tradition, like they have the Corybantes too. It's like they through dance were like like releasing the beast, but they were also connected to the Earth Mother as well, and they and I don't know, like from my own experience, it's like it's interesting. It's like because I'm realizing, like, and I've realized that through my own experience, but also like what from what Jung and others, what from what I've read, it's very much just like when you release the beast and you don't try to control it or like push it away, or like, and you actually can sit with the lion in that sense, and you can actually, you have it integrated. You could release it all, but you know intimately, like how you know the beast intimately, and then like that, like, I don't know, like, and somehow, like, through the connection with the world, you're just like, yeah, you don't really feel like wanting to just like have to unleash it all the time. You actually become civil in that sense. It's like the ancient Greeks, like I brought it up with Neirum too. It's through the dancing, and it's through like integrating and being able to sit with the beast, and to sit with that we and we can befriend it, that we actually become civil. And if we don't do that, then actually we aren't civil. We're like not really civilized in the ancient sense, because we're not like empowered. We're in the state of fear.
Yeah, I think that like leading to the beast, the steps themselves are how you get to it in the first place. And if the steps themselves become more eloquent as they move forward, then it's almost as if like the beast itself is actually can only be fully realized within the person when they are like a noble being. It's kind of paradoxical. Like normally we think like, oh, like when a person just like unleashes their anger and just like kind of acts like a baby, that's actually not the beast. That's something else. That's like it's some kind of minor complex. But the beast is actually like like a poetic being, because that's the only way that you can commune with it.
Yeah.
It's really strange and beautiful. And I think to me that's also part of the North trajectory, is like the speech, noble speech, like because it's involved, like moving from that towards law. That's what it requires, I think. But yeah, I really do think that the north-south node, the awareness of that sub-ritual space is what a lot of these things have been fighting over. And it's actually kind of like out there in the open. It's kind of sad that it's not more popular. Like the legend of Rahu in the Hindu tradition kind of gets into this. Have you read that one?
Actually, I have not. I have not read that one.
I think that will help be a good supplement for the stuff you're working on, because it talks about like Rahu is an immortal god. He's not an immortal. He's a giant, or he's a titan. Sorry, I'm using Nordic terms. He's a titan, but he's not immortal, and he wants the immortality. So you got the image of like the veneer looking at the Aesir and being like, give me your stuff, right? But at the same time, the Vanir also had like their own wisdom, right? And that's also the case in this story. The Titans,
Yes.
they're called Asuras. Sorry, they're called yeah. Okay, got it right this time. The Asuras actually have like their own magic, and they exist in time. They're not eternal. They want the elixir of life. So this Rahu being goes and he like basically like becomes a part of where like he was gonna get the gods to do to disperse it. And I'm simplifying it real just so we can talk about it real quick. And he basically like tricks them by I think he impersonates like some other god. But before he gets the elixir, he like it goes down his throat, and then the god in charge, Krishna, I think Krishna or Vishnu, like cuts off his head with the chakram, and then from that point on, his head and his body are separated, and so you have this whole headless thing coming up again, but but it's like a representation of the psychic will to seek the transcendent, to become divine, to become immortal. Is a process that like makes us essentially I mean, the point is the trickery, I think. And that trickery is what we can put into poetry. And when we do that, I think we get the head part to grow up. We get the brain to grow up because that's what connects it to the body. So that's kind of like how I see that myth kind of be intertwined, what we're saying.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I kind of feel like, and if you think of it even from an evolutionary like lens too, I mean the body technically is much older than the brain that we have, so it makes sense for the brain needing to grow up in that sense. Because weirdly, like a lot of people tend to think like somehow I guess the brain is much I don't know wise or something than the body, but it's kind of like kind of the other way around, and it's kind of like the brain came out of this process of what we became, and it makes a lot of sense for the brain needing to grow up, but also like for I guess us as individual humans needing to mature in that way as well.
Yeah, that's actually wow. I can't believe I just said that. Like, I'm writing this down because I've never said that before in that way, and it just makes a lot of sense. One of the things that my teacher said recently is this, and it kind of turned it into my own little poem.
Yeah.
You pay with the body that you make. The wolf, it hungers, it eats what you take. So what do you take? It's the stuff that you leave out. What you egoically take is the stuff that you're actually leaving out, and that's what the brain eats. It eats in the void of the spirit. It eats in the empty, not unseen part. So what your spirit eats is the stuff you ignore.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But the brain needing to grow up in order to catch up with the body, that's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
I saw that thing about the reptilian brain misunderstanding or whatever that lady was saying. That's very interesting.
No, it is interesting.
I got what you were trying to say. What you were saying is like it doesn't really matter whether we call it reptilian brain or whatever. It's still the part of the brain. It's still part of the way that we like, you know, it's still a fight or flight survival mechanism. Like everything that you would attribute to the reptilian brain still.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how you change it.
The name itself is also very much more symbolism than that it needs to be actual fact. That's the weird thing, like, you know, with symbolism, because we use a lot of symbolism there too with it, because we call it like even though it's not actual factually correct, but it's symbolically correct in that sense, like how we can, like, conceptualize it and think about it, like the like a scattering lizard that like scatters around in that, and it helps to conceptualize these like difficult concepts that otherwise would be very difficult to talk about, so we can contain it in something much smaller, so we don't have to carry around a lot of jargon around it, and keep it more simple. And I feel like that's also the essence of poetry, because it can contain much more than the lines that it actually is, because it contains through its symbolism much more. But yeah. But I don't know if if you have anything more to say about God's wife, or like the Sky Father, or any regarding that. It's been for me now 3 hours and 30 minutes of speaking. I think I'm getting a little tired, so maybe I wanna wrap it up in a bit.
Yeah, no, for sure. Anytime, man. I appreciate you bringing me on. I didn't expect it.
No, like, glad to have you on. If you see us here, like streaming or recording, just like hop on anytime. Like, it's true for anyone else too. It's like, can hop on anytime and be part of it and bring. And it's a real pleasure to have you on again, Lavan. It's you always bring like a lot of good insights, and I think like. I think what you said really added to it as well, and into the understanding of what's going on in like a spiritual sense with like the Earth Mother and the Sky Father. So thank you.
Yeah, man, it was a pleasure.
Yeah. Likewise. But with that said, I think I wanna end the stream. Okay, I would say take care, everyone, and see you all in the Fox then. Okay.